Hello, welcome to Waiting for Game, podcast presented to you by Melee Stats. And I'm gonna say it right here. I'm gonna say it at the top of the show. I'm gonna make the bold claim. I think we're gonna have one of the greatest episodes of all time, and that is, of course, because we were talking some of the greatest players of all time. And in order to do that, we got some of the greatest people of all time. I'm here with one of the greatest commentators of all time, Toph.
Hello.
One of the greatest Marths of all time, Edwin Budding, and Blur is also here. What is up, everyone?
Hell yeah. Mm-hmm. What's up, dude? What's up, Blur?
What's up? I love the intro because, like the great rappers, Pac, Dre, Biggie, I'm just a one-word name. You don't need to preface it with like who, the greatest accomplishments. You just say
the name speaks for itself.
It really does.
Yeah, you even drop the crimson before it. You can really just you're honestly like Sean Combs over here, just dropping parts of your tag, being memorable.
The thing with Blur is that if you caught him at the right time, he's people. You can just call him Crimson, and you can call him Blur. You can call him Crimson Blur. Facts. He just mixes and matches it anyway it goes.
So tell me, what are we talking about this fine podcast, and what's going on? What's so special?
So if you guys didn't catch it, this past weekend was the 20th anniversary of the release of Super Smash Bros. Melee for the Nintendo GameCube, and to honor the rich history of the competitive scene, we teamed with PG Stats, and we created some that you guys might have seen, the top 100 players of all time. So if you were watching Twitch videos, or if you were on YouTube, I think some people reacted to it on there, or if you were on Twitter, you've probably seen the list. But let's get into it, because not only the the number one, the top 10, I think that was stuff that a lot of discussion was about. But the thing with this is that there's so much to talk about in like every facet of it. So I just want to get into talking about this, and we're going to start with the big one. So we're going to start with the number one. And I think the easiest way to do this is we're going to go around, and I believe I know what all of your answers is, so I'm going to hop in here first. Armada's the best player of all time.
Oh, you're an Armada stan, huh?
I'm an Armada stan.
So, it's really funny. I was at the Esports Awards over the weekend with Samox, and I got into this with two esportsians. I got into it with a friend of mine, Harris, who works at ESG Law, and Frodan was there. And Frodan... for people who don't know this, Frodan was the reason, I think I'm allowed to say this, Frodan was the reason that Fizzy was named the Panelist Choice, or we got the Panelist Choice Award from the Esports Award, which was pretty cool. And Frodan was vehemently defending Mango. Mm-hmm. And Harris from ESG Law was defending Armada and saying Armada is clearly
my boy.
And, okay, so I think for me, right, obviously with all of this shit, it comes down to what you value. Right. And so I think for me, and let me just make sure if this is kind of fits your mental model here, Wheat. I think the Armada argument is Armada's number ones were more dominant. Like when Armada was number one, it really was like Armada's fucking number one. And Armada has like the head-to-head records against the field in a really dominant way. For Mango, I think one of the biggest arguments is he was doing it earlier and he was doing it later, and he has more years overall at the top. So his density for those years where Armada was number one, he doesn't have a reign quite on that level, even though I will argue that Mango's reign, in 2008, 2009, 2010 was really, really dominant. I think the most convincing pro Mango argument here is that Mango was just at the top. He was the alpha and he was the omega. He came before Armada, he's here after Armada, and he's still number two in the world, which is kind of insane. And I think that for me, I am slightly on that side of the fence. I will say that in a world where Mango was even performing at HBox levels in 2020, 2021, for me, that wouldn't be enough to boost him above Armada. Mm-hmm. But in the world we live in where Mango is top two right now, that was enough to push it over for me. Because you know what I mean? Armada can only go down. If he's retired and Mango isn't, Mango can only go up, Armada can only go down. So for me, it's a question of when does Mango hit that threshold? And with his performances this past year, especially since I am using some of these online events to kind of calibrate this for myself, for me, he's already hit that threshold.
Can I say something first to interject for a second? When you say his performances this last year, you're talking about one tournament, right?
No, I'm not. Because even coming into Summit 11, Summit 10, which I'm using, I don't know what, Panda's got a whole thing with Nintendo. There's all kinds of corporate bullshit there. I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to try to dig into it. I'm not going to ask you guys to respond. So, with PG stats or what have you, this, that, and the other. But I would say the narrative was pretty clearly Mango and Zane are number 1 and number 2. That was not just Summit 11. That was the case for Summit 10, which Zane won. That was the case for those SCL weeks where Mango and Zane were winning back and forth until Wizzy took one. I would say that was like 10 plus tournaments. I'm not going to.
Okay, it definitely wasn't 10 plus tournaments. I don't even think Mango entered 10 tournaments.
I'm counting each SCL week. Each SCL week was, if you count each SCL week as a bracket, it's like 10.
And the reason I make that point is because I've grown frustrated with the top 2 narrative, because even though I agree with it, my eyes work. All right, they're the 2 best players. I get it, right?
Okay,
we all understand. But when a dude hasn't entered for that long, when he's on stream saying, and I quote, "Oh shit, I haven't played Melee for 5 months." Like, I'm kind of worried. I gotta get it back in shape again for Summit. And Mango? He's saying, he literally said the words, and this is verbatim. 5 months. I will literally
watch. Look, listen, I'll watch Mango 3-stock Kadoran. Mango 3-stocks Kadoran.
Yeah, but it says,
"Oh, I'm so shit right now."
So Blur, I just want to say,
right? It's like, how much does it add to his legacy if you're just adding a year to his legacy? But I'm just like, bro, you're really just adding Summit.
But it's not a year. It's 3 years over Armada.
I have Mango as number 1 too, but I kind of want to temper it where it's like, I find it frustrating. Also, I find it frustrating the early years of Armada's career. The early years of Armada's career, where he literally entered 1 super major a year, like traveled once, like the 09, 10, 2010s, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh yeah, he was the best that year. I'm just like, bro, he like performed best that 1 tournament, and then he went to a bunch of European events. Like, that's great, but I'm not gonna pretend like they're the same as like the 2016s, 2017s, where like there was just 3 tournaments a month, right? It's just not the fucking same.
So something that
Edwin,
I think something that I think is so wonderful about this debate between Mango and Armada is that we know what the other side has to say. If you're on Mango's side, you know the points that are going to be brought up in Armada's favor. You know that Armada's got all the head-to-heads. You know that he has as dominant of a peak as anyone else. And if you're on Armada's side, you know that Mango was there before Armada, and you know that he was there after, and that he had some level of success. I think it's very funny that while talking about these 2 players, Blur went on a side tangent about how frustrated he was about Mango not entering as many tournaments as he should be, according to Blur, because it just shows how much passion we have to where this simple debate that we know both sides of, we know exactly how it's going to turn out, and spirals out of control to talking about what Mango's current actions are. It's not exactly on topic, but I love that this topic itself is so present
on topic.
and is lurking, and it's lurking in the background of everything.
We're going to have a boatload of fun. We're going to have a boatload of fun. But I think a place to start, right? And I think this is the thing that I've noticed in your content, Toph, in Hugs' content, is it feels like there is like a difference between how some people are approaching this sort of question and others, right? Like, the way I see it is mostly because I watch a lot of basketball. I love the NBA, and I think of like in a sports literature way, right?
Who do you think the GOAT is in basketball?
Yeah, wait, who's the
Michael
NBA
Jordan? Michael Jordan. It's not really a controversial opinion, but
Jordan is kind of like the Armada of the NBA.
Oh, shut up.
Oh, okay, all right.
If you think about it,
he was pretty good.
Kareem had a pretty good argument.
Yeah. So the when I think about it in that,
you guys are gonna love this.
Yeah.
I have an argument. I'll bring it up later when it becomes pertinent. I have an argument that I have not unleashed this argument in any of my content on any of my streams, and I'm going to bring it here for the first time. And I actually think it's a relatively non-controversial one.
Is it about the GOAT or is it about some other part?
No, it's for further down. It's for further down. It's
we'll
more
get
just
into
about we'll get into it.
I'm excited. I'm excited to open this Pandora's box.
Can I finish what I was going to say? Basically,
go ahead.
There is, if you just look at sports literature, there's a distinction between the word greatest and best. It's really hard to know that distinction unless you just follow sports a lot. But basically, the word greatest very much means a measurement of accomplishment. It's not about like who is best 1-to-1. It doesn't like eras are tried. They try to flatten them, and they basically say who had the greatest accomplishments across their career. Now, one thing that we don't have that sports often have is consistency. So in sports, like they'll have an NBA season every year, and it's just kind of how that's how it is, right? But for us, year to year, the scene goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, and so we have a harder time flattening our eras than I think they might, right? Because truth be told, 1996 winning a championship, 2020 winning a championship in the NBA, maybe you can equate that, maybe you can't, maybe you give plus points for this or that, but it's not as different as 2004 versus 2018, right? Like there's a much larger difference, right? And so like we have a similar parallel in the sense that I think Ken is our Bill Russell, and I think like we have like that whole thing. Maybe Azin's our Wilt because he lost more often to Ken, but he still like put up good numbers. And then we have the modern era players. So we have some level of parallel, but I do sympathize with the general sentiment that okay, it's a little bit harder to flatten for our game because of just the inconsistency the scene has seen.
So, do you think that plays into why you think Mango is above Armada?
I think the reason I think Mango is above Armada is because I think his accomplishments. I do still use the sports way of determining this. Greatest means most accomplishments, and I think Mango slightly edges out Armada. I think it's actually almost entirely even if you really want to talk about it. But I think in 2 months,
that's why we have you on the podcast.
I think literally 2 months time, it's not going to be. It's going to be even clearer Mango because I think he's going to get top 3 at Genesis, SWT, and Summit. Or I guess not SWT because he's not going, but at Summit and Genesis, he's probably going to get top 3. Maybe he's going to win one, and then it gets even harder. And then within a year, it's not even going to be a conversation, right? So I like that a list like this, which we're probably not going to update for a bit, has him a number 1 because it's going to be more accurate, literally 2 months from now. Because maybe it's close-ish now, but it's not going to be that close. In a month, 2 months time.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here because I am Team Mango on this one, but I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, and I'm gonna say because you mentioned top 3, couldn't you argue that if Mango doesn't win some of these events, that he's actually not that dominant right now, and Armada, when he's number 1, he dominates, right? He wins everything, right?
Yeah, I think Mango's got to win. He can't just get top 3. He's got to win for the gap to become. As someone who has Mango number 1, when the stakes are that high, I think you got to win. The top 3 won't cut it.
Winning would help him, but second helps him too. I basically think like anything is additive. It doesn't ever, even if he gets dead
right,
last,
but like significantly additive is I think what Toph is talking about.
Significantly additive, sure.
Could you even argue that getting second would be not additive? Could you argue that him not winning? I mean, I wouldn't, but I could see someone making this argument. Armada, if he kept playing, would be number 1. I mean, I don't know. I Armada fans.
No, I like this.
Armada was number 1. He beats everybody. You don't understand.
I mean, I'm the only guy who said Armada is the best on here, so I have.
Why do you think Armada's
these horrible opinions where Toph is like, I'm going to play devil's advocate, and then I have to agree with it. Okay, so here's a question. Mango gets 3-0'd in grand finals of Summit 11. The best set of all time does not happen. We don't get to see him do it all. Gets 3-0'd.
Okay.
Now, who is the greatest of all time?
Mango.
Still Mango?
He gets second. That's fine. I kind of already had him to go before Summit.
Second,
I honestly don't know.
By Zayn?
No, I think I would probably have. I think the stakes of winning that Summit, like it's not just one major, right? Like even weighting majors, this is like one of the biggest tournament, like the biggest prize pot in Melee history. Mm-hmm. Like I think that was one of the biggest like accomplishments Mango's ever had. Like that has to be it. I wouldn't call it career defining because he's had other career defining tournaments, but it's on that. There's a reason we included it on the player card. I think he had to win Summit.
I don't think there's a way that you can have a great GOAT argument for Mango without including Summit 11. There's a lot of things that you don't have to include for Mango and Armada. They have so many wins. I'm not going to be like, Armada's the best. He won Summit 3, right? It's like, you don't have to include everything. But there's no way to make an argument for Mango being the GOAT if you don't include Summit 11.
I think there
makes
is.
me think
Absolutely.
I agree
that
with
if he
you.
doesn't win,
I thought that after Big House 9 and Mango's birthday bash, I think you guys even made an article about it. I thought that's when he's slightly edged out. You could start making the argument.
Edwin makes those articles
fair.
every time Mango wins a tournament.
I thought like
It's just so exciting.
like Big House 9 was crazy impressive.
Listen.
Let's not forget. Like
those
were after Armada retired. Like I felt like that was when it's like, oh crap, he might be the best again.
For me,
That was
I want to ask a crazy question to you two guests on the show. I know your answer on this. Don't spoil it.
I don't even know what the question is, but I like.
I want to ask you two, Blur and Toph. What does Hungrybox have to accomplish to have an outside shot in this conversation within the next year?
Be the best for 1 year. He's not that far. I don't think he's that far.
Yeah,
that seems pretty. But that seems pretty far, like realistically, right?
For him right now, it is.
Yes.
For him right now, it is. But compared to like I don't know every other human being on Earth, he's the closest.
I think with Hbox's current level, I think he is moving down. For me, he's actually moving down for me right now, which hurts to say.
Wait, like down from number 3 to like 4, or down like the gap?
Not to number 4, but the gap is widening. Yeah, I think the one metric that I'm kind of using here, because I realized as I made my own list, I was like, really like one thing that does matter, I think, is number of years at the top would be one way to think about it, right? And I think that between Hbox, Armada, and Mango, it is actually quite close right now. And then you get into questions again of like, you know, Armada's years at the top, you could see as being, the gap was wider when he was number 1, for example. But I am kind of using that criteria, right? And I think that for Hbox, he's got some catching up to do.
So I think the gap is widening between him and Mango, maybe, but not between him and Armada. Because last I checked, like 2 weeks ago, Armada's not playing, and Hbox got second. Now second's not great, but like he's still a top 10 player in the world. Like, it's still a little sprinkle on the top, like whatever. Maybe that's
a thought experiment. Maybe that's a thought experiment here. Maybe the thought experiment here is, you know, imagine a hypothetical where, say the game's been out for 30 years and we've been playing for 30 years, and we've got Armada, and to make this even more exaggerated, imagine SWT is literally top 11 in the world for 30 years, okay? And then you've got Armada, who was like number 1 for 2 years. I'm just going to make it super simple. Imagine Armada only played for 2 years and he was the best. And there were 2 years in the middle somewhere and he was the best. And he didn't play besides that. You know what I mean? Who's better? The guy who was number 11 for 30 years? The guy who was, and I don't know that.
So I think at some point you run into this is like the Mew2King path. I think at some point you run into like a stop. Like you have to be this, like there's a, like I think for a lot of us on the all-time list, and this kind of goes into like Mew2King versus Ken, but like I think if you haven't reached like, I guess Toph, you've talked about this on stream before as far as like density of results. I think I think the level in which density matters varies depending on the range that you're at in the list, but I think at the very top it's extremely important. Like I know that Mew2King has meta accomplishments, and I know that he has great longevity. But
meta accomplishments. But sorry, go ahead.
But it's okay. I could not, in good faith, put someone with such underwhelming top level, like prime major victories in comparison to someone like victories.
Sorry.
Oh my god.
So the way
I think at some point you run into. So I think at some point, I think for Hbox, like in the Armada Mango tier, like being top, like you got to keep winning majors, and you have to like look dominant, like as like you have to look like the best player in the world for different stretches. I think the stakes become really high.
Toph, the way I'd answer that question is this: is that how many tournaments did they win in those 2 years? If we're talking, let's say 40 tournament wins with like 20 of those being super majors or something. I don't know. Like it was an insanely active year.
Like Armada years. Like Armada, right. You know, they looked like when Armada was number 1.
Basically, I think what longevity does,
positive head-to-head over everybody, you know.
Basically, everything that you do, in my opinion, is just additive. But if we're talking about someone who has won more majors in 2 years and has gotten more top 8s, or like it just generally, you know, in 2 years than someone was able to perform in 10, it's like, bro, that's more of a fair. That's just like, bro, they did more in 2 than you did in 10.
Yeah, you could break it down tournament to tournament. You could.
the longevity is great, but it better catch you up. Like, it's kind of like, okay, now Axe has a major win. Now he has more top 8s. Like, you know, like, and it sort of starts adding up, and you're just like, okay, well, he has more top 8s than this guy. He has more general good placings than this guy. And that guy, sure, he did better, you know, individually on this or that, but it ends up rounding out. Like, let's say you make their 20 best tournaments, you put their 20 best tournaments next to each other. You're like, well, the guy who played longer, it took him longer, but he still has a better list. Right. And so to me, it's just like, that's where it starts.
I'm with that. I agree with that. Edwin, I agree with that. My answer is the same as Blur's.
Yeah, all right. Okay. I'm gonna drop a just really quick tweet. I just want to drop this and see if it changes anyone's mind on a Hungrybox versus the top two.
Okay.
Does it change your mind at all that technically, by the criteria we set for majors on this list, that Hungrybox has the most major first places out of anyone in Melee history at 34.
And they're not like, they're like the biggest ones. Like, you actually look at the top 10 biggest Melee tournaments of all time, and it's like, you just see HBox's name over and over again. Because he was
Does this change your mind at all on the top, on his place in Melee history?
I was thinking of putting, when I did a list, like a hypothetical list, like I was close to putting HBox. I did a list to predict the Melee stats answer. I actually thought you guys might put HBox number 1. I really did. I was like, oh my God, they're going to do it. They're going to put HBox number 1.
Can you imagine it? Imagine us hyping this list and having photos of Mango and Armada.
Listen. And I meted away from I realized, as I was thinking about it live on stream, I realized, wait a minute, if Melee Stats was going to make a list with HBox at number 1, and I know you guys just wouldn't have made the list. So I was like, all right, I guess it's not HBox number 1.
We would have sent in his resignation letter. He would have been he would have been like, I'm not being friends with you, Edwin.
I would have seen the writing on the wall, and I would have put HBox like 98th or something.
You would have been like, this isn't a good idea.
I heard a rumor that the only reason that Mango got number 1 is because someone put HBox at 2nd over Armada. Is that true?
Well, the way that it was done was, you know, you have to give a player a rating. It's not just like an average of
9.8 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, you know, like if I put Armada, you know, like 10.0 and then Mango, you know, 9 point whatever, you know. So it wasn't just like like there are situations where Mango still could have been first without any ties, and it could have been, you know, you didn't have to have someone put Armada at 3rd to do so. But yeah, Edwin, you want to get into the exact numbers of it? I think you got something prepared.
Yes. In fact, earlier in the week when this list came out, I made a brief tweet. The tweet was meant to convey a simple message about the closeness and proximity of Mango and Armada to each other. But I want to be more specific in a long-form format like this show. The actual calculation for the points that went into determining the greatest Melee player of all time, it was actually not 1 point. 1 point would have been a lot. It was 0.2. 0.2 points. It was that close between Mango and Armada among us 6. It was 0.2.
So, not 0.2 on average. You mean 0.2 across all of the panelists, cumulatively?
No, I think it was on average.
So yes or no, was there a ballot that had HBox over Armada in any format?
I'm not at liberty to.
So yes, that's just a yes. Okay, get chat.
I will let you determine whatever conclusions that you want.
I'm going to make a social judgment of. I know these guys were yes.
Right.
That's
the
answer.
What? You know what? Then actually, can I ask this question? Why not HBox number 1 for you guys? To Wheat and this is to Wheat and Edwin. Why not HBox?
I'll let Wheat go first.
I am feeling like. This is a personal attack at this point. This is not anything
no.
I
don't mean that.
No, I have to. First off, I have to hear. Is SWT better than Armada if he played for 30 years?
30 years.
And now I have to answer this question of why HBox isn't number 1.
I only asked the SWT for 30 years question to try to clarify like the bounds.
You can totally see it. SVAT's lifting weights like in the morning.
I think I can still
I like the question, Toph.
He looks the
very
same.
healthy.
It was a good question.
This is a good question. Because if you made this list a year ago, 2 years ago, you know, the question of could HBox be number 1? That's like, especially before the Big House 9. If you made the list before the Big House 9, HBox might have been number 2 behind Armada, maybe a shot at number 1. I mean, the thing with HBox is like we talk about what's additive and you know what like subtracts from legacy. Currently, we're probably seeing more of a subtraction because I think in order for him to be number one of all time, he has to have the sustained dominance.
I don't
that
think there's ever a subtraction. It's kind of my policy. I just don't think that even if he literally busters out for the rest of his career and just gets worse and worse, he plays until he's 50. I'm like, God bless, do it, bro. It's just to me, it's like it's just accomplishments get added, not like.
But he would not be number one right now. So that's the thing.
Even
if you don't think it's subtraction or legacy, he's not number one, and not adding anything only hurts his case, right?
I'm with Weed on this one. And it's actually, for me, it's actually one reason. I'm sure we'll get into this later. For me, that was actually a reason I was lower on Ken than a lot of people. To be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm with Weed on this one.
You got your little finger up. I know you want to.
Yeah.
So here's my thing with HBox. So I'm not going to say that he gets subtracted because he falls off, but I do think that it's basically like in the context of being valued against Armada, like it doesn't help HBox to get 5th or 7th. It might boosts him like maybe like a fraction of a fraction, you know, like in an arms race against Armada's all-time legacy, like in order to actually get like in the like deeper in the conversation, you have to actually win like really big events. Or you have to finish
he's not really making up any ground in the last 2 years.
And I think the thing, if I can just like finish my point for a sec. Sorry, I have a lot I want to say on this. I think the thing with HBox that makes his drop off over the last 2 years really stand out is the fact that I think, you know, let's travel back in time to like February of 2020. Okay. Like, we don't have to worry about masks. Like, we have offline events.
February 2020, we still know that COVID's a thing. We just don't think it's going to get us.
Yeah, we just don't think it's... Yeah, this is straight off 3 years of HBox being number one. Like, the way things are going, like, he might finish 4th for another year in a row. HBox is well on his way.
For a 4th year, but...
To putting, you know, his claim for Melee GOAT. In fact, I would actually argue that it seemed like an inevitability the way that things were trending. I know Mango had won Birthday Bash, Zayn had won Genesis 7, but like the point is like you wouldn't have bet against HBox. I think in the last 2 years, the reason it doesn't help the reason it's hurt him is not just because he fell off. It's because his chief rival for that spot behind Armada back then got better in those 2 years. And not just like got better, but like won notable events. Sure. So I think for HBox to catch up to Armada, it's, you know, is it plausible? Maybe. I think it would take him quite some time, or it would require seeing more of like old HBox come back. But I don't know if he realistically is like, I mean, you can never say never, right? Like, I think with Mango...
Sounds like a yes or no question is due here. Yes, to what I said earlier, I would say one more year of being the best, roughly rank 1 in the world, and I would put him as GOAT HBox. Does anyone disagree with that statement, or you know, what are the yes?
Yeah,
one more year wouldn't do it for him.
Let me tell you what
in the game's prime.
Let me tell you why though.
Those years they weren't as dominant. They just truly were not as dominant.
Could you really be that dominant in 2017 when there's 3 fucking tournaments a week?
I know where you're going.
When Armada was number 1, he was way more dominant than HBox. When HBox was number 1, honestly, we could go through it. We could go through all the old Melee Stats podcasts of us going through the end of the year.
Oh my god, it was great.
Every one of those years where HBox was number 1, Armada was like literally 1 tournament away from being number 1. Coin flip scenarios.
Sure.
There were tournaments where like he had better head-to-head records than HBox combined. HBox just won more tournaments, so sure. You know, I'm not going to say that Armada should have been number 1 in 2017, but the argument that Armada had in all of those years where HBox was number 1 was really strong. And then we get into 2020. Who knows what that's looking like? It's already starting off with Zayn winning Genesis, and then like already we are seeing Zayn amazing, Mango amazing. And the level of dominance that I think that HBox would have to show, I just don't know if we've seen it. I think we could see it. I think he could be number 1. Obviously, it's still possible, right? If we did this list in 5
dominant
years.
number 1 year, would that be enough? Like
Probably
if he just
not.
drops that in 2022.
I think it would take like late 2017 to like early mid 2018. I think it would take that stretch for like a year. Like it can't just be 6 months, and it
would
can't
have to be like winning 6 majors and dropping 2 or something.
It would have to be like, here, I'll give a specific example of a moment in time where I actually felt like this might happen. At the end of Pound 2019, where after losing to, I think it was Mango in winners, he beat like everyone that the tournament threw at him that everyone thought would be tough for Hungrybox. He beat like Plup, Zane, and Mango in a row. I remember at the end of that tournament, me, Wheat, and Ambi we were like, this is it. Like, this is going to be Melee for the next year. Like, we throw everyone that we think can stop Hungrybox, and he just beats all of them. It's unstoppable. Like I think it would require a year like that.
Toph, what do you think? How much would it take for Hbox to become your GOAT?
Or just a bunch of major wins.
Yeah, I'm mostly with Wheat on this one. I think that I like the argument that it's not just about number of years as number one. Like, it's like, let's actually look at those years and like, in a way, like almost assign point values, not out of 10, but like imagine
weighting them.
Weighting them and saying, okay, Hbox was here, here's his bar, and then Armada's is like slightly lower. But then if you look at, you can, I'm not saying it's literally cumulative, you add these numbers up, but I think that's a decent way to think about how this works. And I'm kind of the opinion that I think, more recent years should count for a little bit more overall, although, obviously Armada, I think, not like he's like super old school. I think he played pretty recently. And I think for Hbox to literally be the GOAT, yeah, especially right now, it's tough because of Mango's situation of just being a lot better than where Hbox is right now. But I think my answer is the same as Wheat's.
So you guys are saying that more than a year. It would probably take more than a year.
I think it would take more than a year of like, it would take like a year of dominance, or it would take just like nonstop. Like he would have to add to his like prime.
Okay. So you're saying a super good year or like a little bit like longer than that
year.
Super good.
Dominant number 1 year.
Like, we're talking
we might
about
need to see some of the best that we've like. We might need to see like Ken in 2000, whatever. I don't know. Well, the way that so this is probably this could be a reason why I value Mango as number one. Scripts Armada number one. And I think this is one of the cool things about the debate, right? Is that you can have Mango number one, you can have Armada number one, and then there's logical reasons for both. And I think that there's a lot of great reasons to have Mango number one. You can be like, he was number one with 3 different characters. That's amazing. That's incredible. Yeah. He was number one for like periods for that were like more further apart from each other. He was been a top player for a longer time. But when I look at Armada, the way that I personally look at it, I think everyone's won a lot of majors. All the accomplishments that they all have, you can argue that all day, right? They've all won so many things. I tend to be kind of the guy who looks at it more so as like dominance, which is why I don't really know if I could see Hbox going above Armada without like literally one of the best years of all time. Because I looked a lot at head-to-heads, and I know that like
Armada wins all of them.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah, no, that's not the problem.
Armada.
I think that's why we is saying Armada number one.
That's the thing with Armada. He just beats everybody.
If you look at it like, and so I think this is kind of one of the things that the Armada fans were a little disappointed by, because if you look at the best accomplishments of Armada versus the best accomplishments of Mango, then it's a toss-up. Mango might win that. Armada might win that. But if you look at the middling level tournaments that Armada had versus the middling level Mango tournaments, two completely different things, right? And I understand why that's not really important to look at in a GOAT argument, but I think that when you have someone like Armada who has done that to a point of consistency that we've not seen ever, it's just that's a whole different thing. What he placed 5th like twice or something. He's lost to 9 people in 10 years. Whatever the exact stats are.
Fourth is like the worst tournament for him on his list. It's like, oh, he got 4th. Yeah. What? That's like his like 2nd or 3rd worst tournament. That's how.
Yeah, I think beating Armada was like literally the most impressive set. That like the most impressive like singular set accomplishment you could have for like.
Can I do a tangential question?
8 years.
Can I do a tangential question? Swedish Delight remove the rest of his career, and he just beats Armada that one time.
He's top 10 all time.
Does he make top 100?
Yeah, sure.
He's somewhere around Silent Spectre.
That's how insane that kind of win is. Like, it's like that's how much I value it, because I think an Armada win is just that insane. It's just so absurd. Because
he's around Zaghetto. He's around Zaghetto if that's the only thing he does.
That win alone is like, just holy crap! You beat Armada. I don't care if it's a best of 3. You touched that guy.
So I've got a question. What year in your mind? Let's say Mango retires. What year does he have to retire where he's not number 1? Is it 2020? Like what tournament does he not have to play? When
for him to not be number 1?
Yeah, when did he become number 1 of all time?
It's actually low key Smash Summit 11.
Yeah, I think it's Summit also.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this. Yeah.
Well, I want to hear from Blur. I want to, because Blur, you said that even without Summit 11, he was the GOAT, right?
I had it at Birthday Bash.
Birthday Bash. Okay.
So Big House for Birthday Bash. I felt like the fact that he became the best again, because I felt I remember being in the room. I was in a circle of me, Mango, Zane, and I was saying, I think you guys are the best right now, and I think we felt the H-Box fall off before it happened, like before the online era. Now, H-Box did okay at the subsequent Genesis, but like you could feel it. It was just like he's just not as good as
subsequent.
It was just not as good as the previous 3-4 years, right? Like
I just like the way you pronounce that word.
And those guys were clearly getting better, and it was just like, bro, Mango, I think you might be the best again. Like, I don't know. And he felt the same, and just the fact that
of course, Mango felt the same.
He always feels like he's the best. But if you go to his streams right now, and I want you to watch an old VOD of like a 2016 Mango stream, literally, you go to a Mango stream right now, and he talks about himself at all times. It's like constant. I actually want to talk to him about it. I want to sit the buddy down and be like, ego might be getting a little out of control. He's like, he's just having it's wild. I never thought I'd meet someone who was a little bit more egotistical than I am, but Mango's getting there. He loves himself, and I love it that he loves himself. But anyway, the reason that happened is because he genuinely feels like he is the best right now, or second best. He doesn't really care, because he respects Zayn as much. But the point is that at that point in time, he really felt like he was the best again. And I thought that was just crazy, because this is a guy who I at that point, of course, like everyone else, had his second best. I'm just like, becoming the best again? That was like the 4th time in my life where I was just like, Mango might be the best. And that's just too many goddamn times, right? For me not calling the GOAT. That's just too many times.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. And I think that another factor here for me is the fact, like, I think this might look a little bit different so take Armada, right? In Armada's waning years before he retired, he wasn't actually ranked number 1 anymore. Now, I know that he was really, really competitive and really close with H-Box, and obviously that he had the head-to-head, but it's not like Mango just became the best because Armada retired. Like, it's not like we have concrete evidence that like it's not that Armada retired, so I guess Mango can just beat all these other schmucks and be the best now, because like Armada was the only good fucking player around these parts. Armada was competitive with some of the other players in the field as well. So that's an interesting point. If Armada like literally was just uncontested number one, all the way up till his retirement, and then he retires, then there's a legitimate claim to be like, look, the only reason anyone else is number 1 right now is because Armada quit. Like, who cares?
So that actually, because you are an era based, I'm less so. I fly in eras much more, but you care about the eras a lot. So let's say Zayn didn't exist, right? And so we have Mew2King quitting, Plup basically became inactive, Armada quitting. We saw a lot of like the household, names. PP's obviously wasn't around for many years at that point. A lot of the gods, a lot of the household, and H-Box
which year is this?
Streamer. Just the general recently. Last couple of years, right? And let's say Zayn didn't exist, right? Would you have felt that way about a Mango number 1, where it's like he's kind of beating up on the best of the rest, right?
I agree I agree with what you're. I'm picking up the cards you're putting down. No, I think so. I think Zayn actually helps to kind of.
Because when you be saying, you were just like, oh, bro, that's hard. Like that guy might have watched Armada for all we know.
I think I do feel that way. I don't know if that's fair on an objective level, but I do feel that way. I feel like Zayn adds a little bit of a context to it, where I'm like, yeah, Mango isn't just beating all these washed up fuckers that are streaming Ultimate.
I think the main thing with like we keep talking about longevity and like what, but I think if I could just like put forth the way I see it, like kind of more in depth. I think in a game like Melee, which is so, among other esports, I really do think the level of history and like results that we have is so extraordinary. But at the same time, like the span of results at which we're talking about is like 17 years, right?
Mhm.
So if you have like 4 years, like 3.5 to like 4 years or whatever, where you were like arguably the best player in the world either for the whole year or for like significant portions of that year, like even having that is like having years at a top 1 or like top 2 level is so big, and like that gap, like we can't, like that's not something to just be dismissed as like oh well, he's played more. It's the fact that he's played more in a game that's simultaneously long, but it's still young. Like it's 17 years. If you have 2 more years where you're top 1 in the world, like that's a big deal. Like you're going beyond just like an era. Like you're becoming associated with like the game's history on its own. When I made this comparison in an earlier like Monday Morning Marth after Mango won Summit, I know a lot of people had gripes with like using team sports as an analogy, but I want to use
You're going to
this
bring up the Patriots, aren't you?
Well, I'm going to bring up Tom Brady in particular.
Oh God,
I think
love Tom Brady. Let's go,
I think
Tom Brady. I fucking love Tom Brady, dude. You don't have to love him, but you have to respect him.
Well,
I do respect him. I do not love him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think with Brady in particular, like
that's exactly what I said.
with Brady in particular, there were times where there were better quarterbacks in the league for like a whole year. Like, there was Rodgers when he was at his best. There was arguably Breeze. For a long time, I thought Peyton Manning was a much better quarterback than Brady for like when the two were together. I thought Peyton Manning was a much better player. Brady had like playoff performances that sucked that nobody taught. I say this as a Patriots fan. Like Brady, I thought was like really overrated for a long time because there were a lot of time. Like he had 07 and he had a couple like individual years, but there were a lot of times where like other people were winning MVPs. Like they were better than him. But like at a certain point, if you've been a top 2 player in the NFL for like 2 decades, and you've basically had like 2 different careers where you were one of the 2 best in the world, like and you've had flashes where you looked like you were the best in the world. That is insane. Now, I want you to think about that kind of longevity in a sport as storied as football, that's so volatile like football, and apply it to a competitive outlet like an esport, whatever you want to call it, like Melee, which had 17 years sounds like a lot compared to other esports, but in Melee, like that's not that many years. If you've been there for 17 years, or if you've been there for like 14 or whatever, and for most of it you were in the running to win a super major or you won super majors, like I think that's incredible. Like we shouldn't dismiss that as just like playing more. It's maintaining like a threshold of excellence or like expected excellence. And I think that's something that we shouldn't take for granted.
The big argument for Mango is that like basically for 13 years of the game's 17 or so years span, almost every single one of those years, I'd walk into a tournament and be like, he can win. You know?
but how many of them did he win? Do you remember those like 18th month period where he didn't win a major? Do you remember that?
I do, and it was rough.
Yeah, he was ranked like 5th. He was almost ranked 6th. Armada's worst placement in a double elimination tournament is 5th.
Brady had a couple bad seasons.
It's true.
And we're not talking about Brady.
But for Mango, it's like I agree. Yeah, that's definitely the case. Like he's had lower lows than Armada for sure. But and that's precisely why, like for me to like rank him the way I do, he had to have the 2021 that he did.
Yeah, I agree.
He needed to prove that he could bounce
comes
back.
into play.
Right.
Okay. Thought experiment. We love thought experiments today. Thought experiment.
We love having fun around here.
Armada, he says he's going to retire at the end of 2018, but he means the end. He doesn't mean August 2018. And he goes to Big House and he goes to Summit, and then he retires.
Oh.
What does he need to do at those 2 tournaments to remain the GOAT in 2021? With knowing what we know now?
How did he? Okay.
Okay, you're just blowing my mind right now.
Who won Big House 8? Big House 8 was who won that one?
HBox, and then Armada was there for doubles, and he was like crouching over because he was like, I could have stopped this, because that was the year where he was like 5-1 with HBox or something.
Oh God, this is a much harder question. Influence, tweaking the end of Armada's legacy for me is a lot harder to rationalize about than than simply.
It's easier to say that SFAT plays at a top 11 level for 30 years.
That he looked the same.
Well,
while
that's
doing
drawing.
That's an easier
That's
thing to wrap
drawing
your head
a.
around.
That's drawing a logical extreme to kind of solidify a point I'm making about which do we actually value more, longevity, whatever. Man, I guess he'd have to win them, huh? I feel like not
he have
much
to win
changes
both?
if he doesn't.
He can't win just one.
Maybe one of them. I don't know.
I mean, it's
What-
here's the way I'd put it.
Well,
Is that
if he
I
wins
think
one of
I
those,
think
he would have been
winning-
ranked number 1 that year, right?
I think it's close
Probably.
enough. I think it's close enough. Like I said, I really do think it's pretty close between the two. That winning both would probably do it. I don't think that winning one would do it because, like I said, if I think that Mango slightly edged him out or at least made it a real conversation at Birthday Bash, then Summit became the thing that made it like, okay, I think he's the GOAT. You know?
Okay, so if I could boil
then
down
then
the
I
argument,
think those two would probably make it
boil it down.
probably Armada again.
Broil it even. Broil it.
in
Broil
one word,
Yeah.
why is Mango the best player of all time? Is it longevity? Because that's what he has over Armada, right? Armada took, he retired already, and then he actually had his retirement that seems to be sticking, and he also got into the game later than Mango. Now
All right.
we
Yeah,
I think
Timelessness. That's
I'm
it.
gonna-
It's not the longevity. It's the fact that
Timelessness. Timelessness is a great word for it.
Timelessness is the word. Timelessness is the word.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do
timelessness.
one better. I think Blur's gonna agree with me on this one. I'm not gonna do
Let's
it.
see it.
Timelessness is the word, but I even have a song for you. I have a song. It's one of Blur. I know it's one of Blur's favorite songs.
I know which song he's gonna pick, and I
He
already
knows the
agree.
song.
I already
And
agree.
I think this song encapsulates.
It's a Big
Mango's
Sean
career.
song because
It's
he's
a
got
Big Sean song.
Yes.
Blur's favorite rapper, and it's a song called "Bounce Back." Last night took an L.
I was gonna
But
say
tonight
persistence.
I bounced back.
My word was gonna be persistence.
And
Which is
Mango
crazy.
takes L's, but he bounces back. Okay,
Dude, the Toph Blur
Right?
biorhythms right
The
now
Toph
are
Blur-
literally.
that's right. That's
We're
right.
waving right now. We're waving right now.
Yeah. Does that
All
make
right.
sense?
Yeah,
to
I'm
you?
kind of on the outside. I'm seeing you guys on the. I'm like sitting on the beach, but
Yeah.
but I appreciate it.
they're on the yacht.
Yeah.
Theoretical. Mango does the same exact stuff that he's done. Literally
Okay.
no career change. He's just not cool.
It's fine. That doesn't, dude. That doesn't change anything.
like-
Oh
for me.
come on!
Do you think that's
Dude,
what it
Kind of a
is?
douchebag. He's like a little stinky.
He's-
He like wears like
I
Crocs.
had-
If HBox had these accomplishments, HBox would be the GOAT. I think that's what.
I was publicly calling Armada 1 for a long time. Like it doesn't. Like it's not like I'm averse. I love Adam. Like
Yeah, I love Armada. I
like
do.
equally.
And
Honestly,
I had friends with. I almost put H. I was doing my list and I was like, dude, it's really close between the top
Dude,
three. I was
when
thinking about HBox number 1 for a second.
when
I was gonna
Armada
do it.
retired, you
So-
don't understand how sad I was. It was because I knew it was real because I talked to him in Europe. I went to Air and we like had a long talk about it, and I knew it was actually happening. You know, it wasn't like even the last one. I was like, yeah, I think this was happening.
So you bought your pass for air and you went to talk to him?
I definitely didn't buy my pass.
Spend money.
Yes. So, you know, I was super sad about it because I genuinely feel like it was a massive hole. I think a lot of people put like general influence on the game a lot more into these lists than I personally do. And that's where like maybe they talk about, okay, well, Mango, you know, has put the game on his back as a content creator, all this sort of stuff. I don't really think that stuff's that relevant. Just like I don't think then it's like, do you count doubles? If you really count influence, do you count doubles? In that case, why isn't Pew Pew like 12th or some shit? You know, like I don't know, you know. And so personally, I don't put influence like that to matter. And similarly, I think personality goes in that bucket. And so that doesn't really affect it for me. I think it's legitimately his results are hot fire. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like it's crazy, bro.
The reason I bring this up is because I think that if I said, why is this player the best of all time? And you say, it's because he's bad, but then he was good again. It's like Armada never had to bounce back, right? Armada's bounce back where we're like, he's like, wow, he might be third in the world. And then he like destroyed HBox. He's like, okay, wait, maybe he's not third in the world anymore.
Look, when Mango bounced back, it was when he went from fucking 5th to 1st again. You know what I'm
No,
saying? Like,
and it's-
you're acting like it's like he became washed. He never became washed. Mango's never been washed in my entire time, right? He literally became
Armada's
good and
never
then
been
stayed
fifth,
good.
straight up.
Mango's never. What's Mango's lowest placement on the SSBM rank? Is it 5th?
Sixth on a summer. And then
Sixth?
Oh, you're
fifth.
talking about rank. I thought you were talking about.
Next
I thought you were talking about
summer.
majors for a moment.
Yeah, summers
For
we don't
majors,
count
I was gonna be
summers.
like, For majors, I was gonna be like, there's been a couple of mango stinkers.
I don't think he's had a year ranked lower than 5th in the world, right?
No, a very contentious year where he got 5th over Mew2King.
He doesn't fall off like that. Like, okay, Armada fell off to 1 to 3, and Mango's is 1 to 5, and Mango has more years, so whatever. You know, like basically, I agree. The way I put it, and to really like put a bow on it, is that I think Ken has the highest peak dominance of anyone we've ever seen. You know, I think Armada has the best prime overall. Like, as in his general prime years are just uncontested. He wins the head-to-head against everyone. He won most of the things he went to. That's just inarguable. Mango has the overall like greatest career, right, of anyone, and the Crimson Blur's day is still coming. So that's really the big list of the greats.
I will say, as the only Armada fanboy on this panel, I think this is such a great outcome. Yes. Mango's spirit is so persistent throughout all of Melee. It's with every one of us. And I think that having him as the number one, an active player, even if it's, only for summits this year, but like, he's an active player, and the spirit that he plays with, it's just like, it's throughout all of Melee. I think that's amazing. But what I want to talk about, you mentioned Ken.
Yeah.
I think that all of us kind of have a certain Red Marth at 4th or 5th overall. But it's very possible it might not be the same Red Marth that we have as our 4th best player of all time.
It's wild.
Edwin, you put Ken number 4, right?
I did.
I put Ken number 4. Blur, where would you put Ken?
4th.
And
for full disclosure,
Toph,
I have the same top 8 as you guys put out. My top 8's the same.
Toph, who would you say is your 4th best player?
I think I put Zane.
Wild. He's crazy man.
Blur was waiting for me to say.
He's a crazy man.
But mind you, when I made my list for YouTube, I want to be very clear that I was making a very personal list that I'm not.
Yeah.
That I'm using pretty extreme metrics for. And if I was, for example, if I was working with a panel to make an official top 100 of all time list, I would have done it differently. So I'm using I'm extremely weighing certain things in a way that I probably wouldn't otherwise. Does that make sense?
So I think basically the way you're doing it is logically consistent with your methods. I think
that's kind of what I'm trying to say here. And I'm trying to make an extreme example that I'm really weighing the difficulty competing today.
That's where I think it's logical. Basically, I flatten eras. I use the old sports method of like greatest, and I think all accomplishments are additive. These are like fundamentals to how I'm approaching it.
Right.
The way, fundamentals of your approaching is different. And the way, if I approach it that way, Zane number 4 doesn't seem crazy. Whereas my way, I like currently would have him at like 13th or something crazy, because it just doesn't, his total list of major wins isn't as good.
So I'll say something on the boomer versus zoomer thing. I think if you're like at the very top of your era, that's like a generational accomplishment to me. So I think if you're top 5 multiple years or like a couple years or whatever, I think that's fine. That's an accomplishment that stands on its own, especially if you're winning majors. Right. Like I think the impressiveness of that, I see your rationale for it, Toph. I don't agree with it, but like I definitely see where you're coming from in talking about like the era today being more valuable. But at least for me, I tend to, as far as the tippy top goes, I tend to like view those things like still like equally proportionally. But I think as you go down the list, like if you're not in the top tier of results, to me, like if you're top 15 for like a year in 2005 or whatever,
it's like the SFAT thing.
Yeah, like it falls off. It falls off a lot. Like I think,
makes sense.
Yeah, like I think Azen and say Husband have a really big gap between them. Whereas like I don't know if there's a huge gap between like someone who won a major in the modern era, like Axe and SFAT. I know Husband was around for a couple of years, but like I'll give you an example of someone who was top 10 to 15 for like a year, like Crazy Jones, right? I don't think that's equivalent to getting a. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, Toph, Crazy, also known as Crazy John.
Yeah.
Yes, John. Like I don't care that guy was. I don't care that Crazy Jones was top 10 or 15 or whatever for 1 year in an era that's like that. I'm trying to be as like favorable towards as possible, because like that's not something that's like that's not something like very sustainable or like measurable. I think winning majors is measurable. That's a that's like a generational accomplishment. I don't know if like
can I do a thing you guys would never think I would do, which is can I make the genuine argument against Ken, which is I have as fourth. I think it's clear fourth. I don't actually think it's that close, but I would like to form the argument that I don't think is being said against him. And the primary one that I think isn't said enough is the 06 argument, which is in 2006, PC, KDJ, you know, a little sprinkle of the Mew2King, and Asin actually was kind of hot fire in 06.
Yeah,
right?
I would say Asin more than Mew2King for sure.
Yeah, Asin definitely more than Mew2King. And that year was the biggest year of that golden age, right? And 07 was also really big. 07, 06, both huge years, right? And so a lot of the time, like the most competitive events of his golden age and of his active period were actually not won by Ken, right? Like
MLG Anaheim, right?
New York playoffs was won by, you know, PC. You have the opener also won by PC. You have, and by the way, Ken wasn't even in Grands. It was KJ versus PC Grands for that.
In Vegas, it was stunning when that happened.
It was stunning, right? And not only that, but like you start seeing that Asin won, you know, MLG Orlando, and also one of the biggest and most impressive tournament wins of all time with Asin's run from the like this weird amateur bracket.
Yeah, the open bracket was insane at MLG New York. He had to go through like everyone.
One of the best wins Smash has ever seen. It was like literally like pound 3 tier, like that level of like holy shit, this guy won that way. Like it's very impressive, right? Including going through Ken. And so the argument that I feel like the argument that people say about Ken is basically they take it at face value. He was the best for 4.5, 5 years. Then you look at you like, dude, was he really the best in 06? Right?
For
like,
that long.
And we say HBox's years weren't dominant. 06 was not dominant, and 07 was like huge question marks, right? Like, and so it's like he's really 05 and 04, 03 technically, but like that year barely counts. There's not many results. So it's like if you want to make an argument against Ken, this is the way I wish more people would approach it.
I'm gonna only push back on that a little bit because I agree that there were moments in the middle of 2006 where it genuinely looked like Asin was the best player in the world. I agree that PC Chris did win New York opener, and he also I also think winning Las Vegas is like such a huge accomplishment for that era.
I mean,
still
like think he was number 1 in 06, but the point is 06 was just, which is the most important year for him to be the best. You know, was just like maybe less dominant than some of HBox's years that we're criticizing him for. You know what I mean?
But the thing with Ken though is that like you look at these events that he did win in 2006. These are events that like, you know, we're talking about a single year of Ken's results. We want to compare that with some of Mew2King's best victories ever. Like I actually think Mew2King's prime when he was winning majors, other than like Smash Summit, I think is a game changer for him. I think that winning Super Champ combo was really big. But you look at a lot of these other like majors that he won throughout his careers, you know, like I don't think I love Jungle Guy, but I don't think the Big House 3 stands up to, we're talking about just 2006 with Ken, right? I don't think the Big House 3 is a more like impressive event relative to era than Dallas or Anaheim 2006. I don't even know if it's more impressive than MLG Chicago 2006. I don't know if it's more impressive than Zero Challenge 2. I don't honestly, you know, like I think the only thing that even approaches like relative to the era, like if we're talking about 05, 06, I think winning Jack Garden tournament was like such a huge turning point.
That's a big win.
That is one of the Toph. I know you will love when I bring this up, but like Japan was like, those guys were really good, and for Ken to go all the way over,
extremely good. Yeah, definitely.
Like that tournament victory alone is one of the most impressive, like for its era, tournament runs ever. And like there are so many majors like that they're not just like tournaments featuring a few gods or a few top players here. They are like the prime events. Mew2King, you look at even his number 1 year, it's just like, you know, I'm sorry, it's not up to par with someone like Ken, Hungrybox, Armada, Mango. It is such a, it's like very, I think so to kind of, I see where you're going or where you're going with this blur, but I really do think that like even in a relatively weak number 1 year for Ken, I might honestly
he's still
say,
insane. He's still insane.
he's still insane. And in a discussion against Mew2King, I don't think 2007 Mew2King. I think the reason why 2007 Mew2King has such a big reputation. Well, there's two of them. One is Mew2King himself, and the second was that Crazy Return crew battle. That's what people remember. People remember Crazy Return. They remember Mew2King's stories about his Marth or whatever. They remember like the combo videos or whatever. You look at the actual records. You look at the actual events one. Like, it's not like this guy had moments where he looked really good and where he looked really dominant, but it's just not there with Ken, like in a comparison with Ken.
So I want to make a comment and a question following what you said. The comment about Jack Garden. The reason why I like Jack Garden as a result so much for Ken's legacy is that if you were in Smash Board to that era, the Latin Americans were saying, I don't know, man, maybe Javi's the best. The Europeans were saying, I think maybe Amsa is the best. And this is Amsa with an H. And then the Japanese, but everyone kind of felt like the Japanese were the best, right? There was like an undercurrent, like these guys were DIing before we were. We didn't even know what the hell we were doing. We're kind of scrubs, right? Like people were thinking genuinely that these guys might be better. And for
they call it Japanese DI.
For them to put their like basically their legacy and their reputation on the line, actually go over there because they had no reason to go over there, legitimately, right? Like for them to basically be like, hey, people generally think we might be the best in the world. And we're the ones that entering the biggest tournaments, but we're going to go over there to really show people that we actually are and can actually show that this guy's doesn't matter, like, and I think it really cements it because, okay, this was an era where maybe there was less international competition and people didn't travel over, but in the time that they did, they showed that this guy, Ken, was actually the best in the world. And to me, that's really important. But the question I want to ask about Mew2King versus Ken, and this is the big question of where you evaluate Mew2King's legacy. Number one, was Mew2King ever best in the world? And number two, for how long? Like, is it months? Is it a whole year? How long was Mew2King actually the best? And whoever wants to take that.
Was he ever best in the world?
Was he ever best in the world? That's actually the first
I love this question.
Oh my God.
I love this.
The New England
before I continue, I'm probably not gonna argue very passionately one way or the other about this one because the reason I'm lower on Ken is actually has nothing to do with any of this stuff.
Yeah, I know.
So we'll get to that later. We'll get to that. We'll get to my bit later. I think Mew2King was number one, but I mean, yeah, maybe it wasn't for very long, but I feel like 2007.
Give me a gut check. How long do you think it was?
Dude, Mango beat him on fucking Dreamland in Best of One. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, that's so fun. It random to Dreamland. You know how annoying that matchup is on Dreamland? And it was last on.
But why did Mew2King go Sheik in 07? That's my question. Why was going Sheik?
I don't think he knew who Mango was. Oh, you meant that year? Dude, I don't know. Mew2King has never made sense in terms of his character picks. But I mean, like, dude, I think he was the best.
That Evo was scuffed.
I think he was the best.
That Evo was.
You know what's funny? I actually thought, as a proud Mango fan at the time and West Coaster, I thought. Now, when Genesis 1 happened, I thought Mango was going to win Genesis. But when Mango, a couple months before that, went to the East Coast for Rival and Melee, I thought Mew2King was going to smoke Mango. I really did. I was like, dude, I think Pound was a fluke. I really did think that. Yeah, it was very shocking when he won the way he did. And then it was like kind of weird because
Mew2King was the thing with when Mew2King was the best was that there was a culture and an aura of him being the best that felt somehow more dominant than the results ever showed.
Yeah, because it's Crazy Return. That's what I'm saying. It's Crazy Return, and he just entered a lot.
And Super Champ combo. And Super Champ combo.
Champ combo was very good. That was
Super Champ combo was the game out. He figured the game out. Like, we're just kind of like, bro, I don't know, bro. Because also the way he beat people that were under like the tippy top tier, it was pretty bad, actually. Like, they didn't know how to deal with the little Mew2King tricks that we're kind of more familiar with now. They started developing, and it became bad. Like, it wasn't close games.
The thing that always like kind of looms over Mew2King's 07 and just in general his prime for me, it's kind of like so Wheat, I'm gonna bring this up to you. Do you remember at the end of 2019 when we were doing our 2019 MPGR, the topic of who was number one came up, and we were like, God, like, you know, Leffen didn't attend that much. You know, Wizzy took breaks from the game. Remember? And then like. I remember this. Wheat and I were having this conversation, and I was like, it was either me or him. I forget. I'm gonna say it was Wheat because it
We're
sounds
just
like
one
something he
entity
would
at this
say.
point. It's impossible to determine who's who.
So yeah, we're the same person. So I think Wheat said something like, it's funny because I think if I said this like in public, people would just see me as such a hater. But I do think there's such a difference between like someone being the best player in the world and just being like very likely to perform in a given like bracket of available players. And I was like, what are you talking about? Then it hit me. I was like, HBox is, losing to Leffen, dropping sets pretty regularly to like Wizrobe and stuff. So the reason I bring that up is because I think 2019 HBox is an example of like a year where HBox might have been number one, but he wasn't like super dominant. Like he had people that he didn't want to play in bracket. 2007 Mew2King is very similar, but I would say to an even bigger extreme. That guy, he did beat Chu and Korean DJ at majors, but like those two players more often than not beat him. And like a lot of his success in that year came at smaller majors where he would beat PC a lot.
I totally buy that he probably sucked ass against Ice Climbers in 2007.
Yeah, he was still not good.
Not having seen any of those sets, I am not surprised.
And I mean, the 07, by the way, that we're talking about in terms of actual major wins, isn't it like, and this is a bit off memory, isn't it just like FC Diamond, Champ Combo, and that's like in terms of wins?
I mean, honestly, I think that
he got a couple seconds. He got second at Zero Challenge and like as OC3, but like basically he really won. He got 9th at Evo, but again, best of 1. Like I just kind of want to throw that away.
He did lose to Chillin' Sheik though in a best of 3. We gotta give Chillin' props.
When we're talking about his era, right? People don't fully say Leffen was ever best in the world. Many people don't, right? Because of his 2015
2 months,
summer.
dude.
Right, and a lot of people don't say Wizzy was ever best in the world because he had like 2 months, right?
Leffen had like the Asin thing, where it was like, he might have looked like the best in the world for like a second, but like it wasn't long enough to form a cohesive argument.
And FC Diamond was in July 07, and Super Champ Code was in September 07. Like we're talking about, there's just like a few months, between them. Doesn't mean he doesn't want to get second in a handful of things between, but like those are the 2 big ones when we talk about 07.
Even Viva La Smash, he was going into that tournament looking like one of the. Yeah, he got 4 because Dreffen sunned him. Dreffen destroyed him.
Sorry, as in one, he means Sond him.
Yeah, Sond.
As in one Viva La Smash. So I guess the point I'm making is 07, I don't think it's weird to say Mew2King was the best that year, whatever. But I think the hard thing
I think it's a weak number one.
It's so weak. And in fact, if you're going to say he's best in the world, it really would be a few months period, like a Leffen or a Wizzy. And it's so hard. It's so hard for me to put that above a dude who was like Ken, who just like smacked the scene around for years. Like that's hard for me.
In fact, I would go even further and say that I think that Mew2King is closer to Leffen than he is to Ken because of what we're talking.
You know
about.
what? I will go even further.
I disagree with that, but damn.
I will continue this. I will go even further. I had Leffen at 5th overall.
Okay, you're
I had Leffen above Mew2King on my list, so I am fully on this. The argument when I did my stream, the argument on my stream was who's higher, Leffen or Mew2King, and it was actually very close between those two.
Ambi Sinister is going to be typing the chat furiously.
I will not reveal
Ambi
what
Sinister
Ambi
not
has.
a Leffen fan?
Ambi
loves
Mew2King.
Ambi has Leffen.
I was going to assume.
I didn't know I was on a podcast.
Ambi's a Fox player, right? Ambi's a Fox.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was on a podcast with people with Mew2King 6. I thought we were like doing a Ken Mew2King. I was like,
no, that was the plan, Blur. That was my plan.
Okay, listen, I'm gonna give my hot take Ken argument. This is the reason I'm lower on Ken than a lot of these other players. I'm gonna give this argument, and you guys are gonna be like, dude, you're fucking crazy, and that's fine. But I'm just gonna say it. Here's the thing, and here's what distinguishes Ken and why I have him a little bit lower on my like heart soul list. Again, it's not the fucking. It's not. If I was collaborating with
I want to hear this.
Right?
I want to hear this.
With every other top player, with every other person that we're putting very high on this list, we've seen them try to come back, and we've seen them be able to come back. And this is even, dude. I mean, I'm even using fucking for my own subjective tastes here. I mean, I'm using things like Mew2King entered Plup Showdown practicing for 2 days, like a couple. He practiced for like 2 days, and he did. And
it was fun.
He was going very well against Plup. Yes, it was. And I was like, wow, that was actually very impressive. He's like taking games with Marth and stuff. Every other god or god level player or person who's dominated the scene, they have tried to come back, and they always show that they're able to rise to a very high level. I mean, I have no argument, and this is like a thought experiment here or whatever. I think we all agree if Armada practiced for like a little while, he would go to a major and be just fine. Like, I don't think
he'd be okay.
I don't think anyone thinks. I don't
He'd
think
do decent.
he might not win, but he'd do decent, right? Like, he'd probably top 8 it. I would have
fourth or worse. I still think
that-
it's like fourth or worse. It's like
and
bro,
it's like fourth and worse, right? He's been gone for like 3 or 4 years. Ken was gone for a couple years and he did try to come back, and he played for a couple years. This wasn't some flash in the pan. Ken competed for several years, and he was like,
He was
right.
He was good.
I thought
I
that
do
was
respect
pretty
it,
good.
though.
And I also don't. I wouldn't call it a couple. That was 7 years in between, right?
It
We're
was,
talking
what,
about
like
07
6
to
years?
2014.
When
or
was
something.
Kasicali won? Because that was
2012.
first-
That's 2012.
2012. But he didn't
He was
actually.
gone for like 5 years.
He played, but he played that tournament and then didn't enter anything really until 013.
Was it?
I mean, that is the tournament where like he came back. You're right, but he didn't really. It was like 13 and 14 where he started playing a little bit again. But even still, like and this is me. I hung out with Ken a lot in that era.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't really practicing. I actually think it was like really impressive how well he did because he was
Yeah.
doing well in the SSSs. He got 13th at Evo.
Streaming with
Mhm.
Santi like all the time. Are you sure? I thought he was streaming pretty regularly with like Santi, Lufumi back then, and
He was playing with me, Santi, some other homies in SoCal, like
okay.
relatively okay, but he actually wasn't the one on the sticks most of the time. If you actually pay attention to those streams, he let me play Toxic Reflection while he commentated. Like he genuinely wasn't playing that often.
I think for me,
13th. To me, that's still really impressive.
It's impressive. It's impressive, but like I almost feel like for somebody like Ken, I almost feel. I mean, it sucks to do the subtractive thing, right? I don't want to.
Yeah,
be
doesn't it feel like you're hurting him
Yeah.
for?
It feels like I'm hurting. It feels like I'm stabbing him or whatever. But
Yeah, I don't like the subtractive stuff. That's my.
He did well though. Like for all things
did well.
considered, you know,
He destroyed West Balls.
He did.
He beat him so bad.
he got 13th at Evo. Like these are things that I guess if you want to say he came back after a break and it was not a top 5 player, but a top.
But what did he get ranked? What did he get
player.
ranked those years? Right? What was
got-
what was the rank?
It was like 50 to 100 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a 6-year break. It's like
It's
I have a
obviously
hard
not
time
why
taking
we
that
put
down
him
for
at
him.
4th. It's
Yeah,
not
like
why we put him at 4th,
like if he
but
wasn't
yeah.
active, like if he wasn't active at all, I don't if he wasn't active at all, I don't think that changes his.
Yeah, is
like,
it
from
worse?
20
Is it worse than him just not entering anything again, Toph? He doesn't enter a tournament ever
I mean,
again.
at this point,
See, I think by the way, this is not only.
Look, I love
like
Zoomer mentality. I love the Zoom. I love a Zoomer approach. If you want to be like Ken came back, he sucked. Zane is arguably the best in the world for 2 years. He's number 4. He's got more.
the way I was looking at it, the way I was looking at it,
I'm not attacking
the way
you.
I was looking at it was you've got Mew2King who's been gone for quite some time. You've got Armada who's been gone for quite some time, and Ken has gone for longer. He was gone for I'm going to say 5 years. But in my thought experiment here, I feel like an Armada or an Armada or a Mew2King being gone for the length of time Ken was gone for, even practicing as little as they do.
Okay, how about this?
To me, it's like night and day.
Let's do PP. What do you expect PP to do if he comes back like on a?
Okay. I feel like we're getting off the. I feel like we're getting off the rails a little.
But overall, I'm not subtractive, so it's just more of a philosophical thing. I think.
Yeah,
that's fine. And we understand the reason for it at least. We don't have to agree with it, but that is. But I think that the thing that we were talking about before that I want to get your thoughts on, Toph, because I know Wheat's thoughts on this, but I want to hear your rationale for Leffen above Mew2King.
Just
rationale.
vibes. This feels like it's vibes.
Leffen above Mew2King. I think it was close, and my tiebreaker was the fact that it's the fact that he's still active. Right, it's the fact that he's got modern results.
Okay.
His period where he was really, really strong is actually just longer than Mew2King's at this point.
Yeah, I think Wheat is. You've set up Wheat beautifully for a yes and.
So here's what I'll say. We talked about how Mew2King is really good, right? And this is kind of the Zoomer Boomer mentality that we talked about a little bit, the divide between the two eras. But his really, really good wins, when were they? Like
Leffen?
Summit 6 was good. It was good. But then if you talk about his like Mew2King. What was Mew2King's Ness
Best.
Jesus Christ. What the What was his next best result?
Honestly,
Second
like
at
champ
UGC?
combo
No, I'm talking about like modern
It's
era.
like champ combo.
Oh god,
modern era.
Summit 6,
like
and then
Canada Cup, like
Canada
I
Cup,
guess?
second best,
Oh god,
second at
Canada
UGC.
Cup.
It's like
Canada Cup. Who did he beat? Shoot at like Prince Abu?
No, Canada Cup. He beat Armada and Leffen.
yeah.
Oh,
it's like
that one. Yeah.
if you
yeah.
throw him into a tournament with everyone there, he doesn't win. He won
doesn't
in
win.
2007.
Mew2King's
He
not a
won,
closer. Mew2King's not a closer. This is known.
No, Mew2King's
That's
not
it.
a closer.
Can we
What
go
does
around and
Leffen
just all
has?
agree? Mew2King's
Leffen
not
has
a closer.
Gommel?
Leffen's a close. No, Leffen's a fucking closer. Leffen at the
Yeah.
SmashCon, where he had the
SmashCon?
most highly viewed Ultimate set ever at the time. And he had the whole venue watching, and then he won. And then he won Melee bad.
Evo,
And he's won Evo, right?
CEO.
That
His-
CEO was big. That CEO was big. That
The
CEO was
tournaments
big.
that he won were so
Yeah.
commanding.
I'm
Even
with
the
that.
smaller ones, even the HCC throwdowns where he just made it look like HBox would never win again, right?
That was a big deal. That was a big
Like
deal.
the way that he was able
That's
to
a
win.
hard tournament. Mango got 17th.
True.
Your goat
Hey,
got 17th.
Something that Armada's never done, get 17th. But
Well,
the
not
way
true. He
that
got 17th
Leffen
at the
won
Foundry.
these True, yeah, actually that's the reason. He lost
Losing to the same player that losing to, well, I know someone else there lost to C-Rabbit.
Okay.
But he won the
Well,
run back, and
we
that's
don't
what
need to
counts.
get into it.
That's
But-
right.
The
Okay.
argument that I will
Sorry,
say
Blur, it's fine.
wait,
It's fine. We'd finish up. Blur was distracted. Blur, you missed your turn. You missed your chance. All right, we'd finish your thought.
the argument that I will say is that Mew2King's longevity is great, right? The length of time he's played is amazing. You're right. He hasn't really been playing. His most recent thing was getting 13th at Genesis. The only reason that we are not putting Leffen above him consistently,
I did.
well, everyone isn't, is it's just because of the visa, right? It's the visa that kind of messed him up. If he was in America this entire time, I really don't think it's a conversation, because when he's there at a tournament, and we're gonna feel this way at Smash Summit 12, even though we shouldn't. If you put him in the tournament with the biggest people in the world, with the best players, he's got as much of a chance as as the people who we put above
never
him.
feel
HBox,
like,
Mango,
exactly.
etc.
Fully agree.
You never feel like he's out.
No one ever sits there like, oh, Leffen just cannot win this. No one ever. Absolutely not.
I
Yeah,
think
it's
one of the things with Leffen that I think is really interesting is that, like, it really did seem like, I think in 2015 there was a stretch where we talk about Leffen's summer a lot, because that's like what we tend to remember. But like, I think when people think of the summer, they tend to think of just like the 3 weeks, right? Like they think of when he won like FC Return or whatever, when he won What the Fox, like right before Evo. But I think like generally heading toward the big house, like the really interesting thing was that Leffen would look really dominant at like 2 or 3 tournaments, or like a tournament, and then he'd kind of have like, he'd have a bad showing somewhere, or like lose to someone that we didn't expect him to lose, and then he'd come back and look really dominant again. Like, people remember the 6-0 like that Mew2King had on him at PAX Prime, but like Leffen respond, and then after I think Leffen had an underwhelming Paragon LA, he came back at HCC Throwdown and looked like incredible. And I think entering like the Big House 5, it felt like, okay, like, Leffen's had his ups, he's had his down, but this is his moment to like potentially like gain the throne for 2015, and boom, he's not allowed to go to the United States. I think if Leffen goes to Big House 5 and he's allowed to go to America, there's a chance that we could see Leffen finish 2015 as the number 1 player for when the events.
I agree.
And in the reality where that happens, and like his
Blur's
record's
Blur's got something to say.
I don't know if it's enough.
Here's the problem with that argument, is that his second half of 2015 was like one of the worst Leffen periods. So in the same year where we had the best Leffen, which is the 2015 summer Leffen, we have DreamHack Winter where he got 9th, and that was not a stacked tournament relatively, right? And he also bombed at Paragon LA, like you said, he got 5th, right? And then he famously lost to Mew2King 6-0 at PAX, right? Smash at PAX. So it's like his lowest and highest points were actually all in the same year. And so it's like, okay, if he had the visa, this and that would have changed. Maybe. We can't really know, and we don't really know. But I think the strongest Leffen argument is that almost every year you compare Mew2King and Leffen to, Leffen was ranked higher for much of their like overlapping years, right? Like almost like throughout that time, he was the better player, and he has, in terms of like more impressive wins, like Leffen has more impressive wins, right? Last I checked,
I think 2017 was the only like year where Leffen looked very off. Like we were talking about times when it seemed like Leffen like was really struggling to win a big event. I think 2017 is probably the closest thing to that, like for him, when he was like, when he lost to like Drug Fox and Lovage. Like I think that's really like it like actually
full bloom, which was like a regional, like
that was,
actually well, he went like Blur now there.
Right. Yeah.
Well, Blur, now that you mention it, like this is kind of like I do think there's like a weird amount of similarities between like Leffen and Mew2King also, in terms of like, juggling multiple games, having a lot of years, like looking. I think Leffen looks better at his peak, and
I agree.
But I don't know if like. I don't know if his like looking better at his peak is sustained till like can sustain beyond like a two tournament stretch. But I do think he can win. Like I think like there were never events that I went into thinking Leffen cannot win, but there was always the chance in the back of my mind, like, oh God, like like if Leffen gets this, or like Leffen's not playing well today, like he might lose to Axe and Duck or something.
And the thing is that I actually think that the other guy not mentioned in this tier, because I actually do think like you guys are kind of alluding to, I at least based on my metric, I think Ken is considerably above Mew2King. I think Mew2King, Leffen, and actually PP, because the difference between PP and these other two is that PP has a much more solid periods of time where he was the best, right? Whereas I think with Leffen and Mew2King, you could actually make an argument. I don't think it's a great argument that they were never the best. I think they were, but it was just so shaky, and it was for so short a period of time that it was really just like they kind of strung a couple tournaments together, and we tried to make believe for a second.
PP, on the other hand, we know definitively that he was number one in the world.
Yeah, like there'd be 4 tournaments, and PP would win like 3 of them.
Yeah, and it would be a solid periods of just PP's the best right now, right? Yeah. And that is pretty impressive on his road. I still think the longevity and breadth, I would still put the Mew2Kings and Leffens above. But I think it's interesting that on a top 10, you can really only say HBox, Armada, Mango, PP are the only ones who you can really be like, they super were the best for more than like 8 months to a year. Like we're talking about like genuine amounts of time.
I think I would say PP's probably I think PP had like months where like stretches of a few months where he looked like the best. I wouldn't put him.
It might not be 8 months. It was more like 6 months often, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
There's maybe you can argue but basically no one else on the list it gets to that long, right?
Right.
Almost everyone else, it's like a few months. Like Asin has a few months, Wizzy has a few months. Barely,
PP super majors are also really impressive, like Apex 2015, 2014, Pound 5. Like those are really prestigious events for him to win.
They're the biggest events. Everyone was there. The kind of events that we're saying that Mew2King doesn't have.
That Mew2King did not win. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like Leffen and PP were able to win stuff like that. PP obviously, hurt by longevity, whereas the other two players have that. Yeah, no, for sure.
And I think so.
Man,
the number one thing that would help,
just not that good.
The number one thing that would help Leffen or Mew2King, if he keeps playing again, like it seems to be alluding to, that would help their legacies, is they just need to be best in the world. I mean, just just do it, bro. But that's like the thing that's really holding them back from that tippy top tier, where it's like you guys really just need to like you have longevity. We believe in you. We think you guys can be top 3 players in the world. But can you really be the best? Because it hasn't really happened yet.
I'll say I ended up going at a Mew2King at 5 because I don't think while I think on an individual like per tournament basis, it's the gap between Leffen and PP being able to win a super major is bigger. I don't know if I would say that it's like significantly bigger in the way that like Mango, Armada, like Hungrybox are. And like I think Mew2King's for like longer stretches, like Mew2King's a little closer to them than he is to like the people above him on the finalists. But I do think it's like it's something I never would have considered before talking to Wheat about Leffen over Mew2King. And naturally, well, if Leffen's over Mew2King for this reason, how far off is PP?
It's actually pretty close. And I think PP Leffen was, I mean, I remember like for a long time, PP over Leffen was like normal on every list, right?
Yeah.
And only recently do a lot of people put him above. And it's like Leffen hasn't really done that much. There's like the Smash Con, most recent one. I guess not the super small one recently, but the one right before that.
2018.
2018 was 2018.
2018 Armada one. 2019 is the one.
2019 was the
right. That's the big thing that Leffen added to his resume.
The largest left,
which I guess is where a lot of
Wumbo
people, the Wumbo will. Yeah, he goes like this.
Yeah.
I think that's like
gives
maybe the
everyone a
point that people put him above PP. But historically, PP above Leff has been where it's been at for most of the like legacy talk.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess if the Smash Con was a tipping point, it's like his tipping point, like PP Leff is pretty close. And if we're saying Leff Mew2King is a very much of a conversation, then PP is actually still in that mix, you know, like in that same tier.
I mean, for every tournament Leffen goes to, it's just another thing added to his resume, right? And that's fortunately.
I'm going to propose a thought experiment here. On that note,
we do love thought experiments.
It's coming up pretty soon. Smash Summit 12. It just got announced today. Leffen's coming. If Leffen wins that, what happens?
I don't know. I mean, I have
he could
already,
right? He literally could.
He could.
No, can I
maybe I should be asking Edwin. Maybe I should be asking Edwin because you're kind of already
on. Toph is so correct.
I think
right?
PP Mew2King, are they going to win a major anytime soon? Who out of those three is likely, right?
Leffen can only go up.
Okay, but here's the thing with Leffen winning Summit. Okay,
he could get 13th to go down, I guess. But
here's the thing. Here's the thing with Summit. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say Leffen wins Summit. Okay. Let's say he gets first. Let's say his sheep destroys Zane. Yeah,
let's say
he destroys Zane. He beats Mango. Does that not call the last 2 years into question? If it's like how much do these accomplishments means if Leffen's not there, right?
I
Like
think
Leffen wins Summit and suddenly Armada's the best player of all time.
I don't think it calls the years themselves into question. I think it puts what I think it calls into question is we really have to be honest with ourselves, and I think the internet collectively owes Leffen an apology, and we should never have been saying this top two stuff. And I want you guys to know, I do personally on my own stream, I make it a point to say top two, and then I say, or three, you know, we don't know where Leffen is. I always say that. Every single time. My chat can attest to this. I always say Leffen is probably in there somewhere. I don't think it throws all of Zane's accomplishments out.
Well, it wouldn't get rid of them, but it would contextualize it and it's still impressive.
I'm just saying, you guys would look like fully owns for putting Zane at 9th already. That would be freaking weird.
But for Leffen though, what do you think it would do for Leffen in your list, Edwin?
Oh God,
I think Wheat's kind of on this train.
That would be a big win, bro. That'd be huge.
It would be huge. It'd be
bigger. The thing is, it would cement him as like the best player in the world. It would mean that this least in the last. It would mean at least in the last year that there is possibly the best player in the world who just missed out.
Okay,
all these tournaments.
What you just said, Edwin, is why I hate the top two narrative right now so much, because it feels like tournaments happen and we call them the top two no matter what. Like literally like, oh, Wizzy Wave's main stage? Yeah, Mango Zane's still top two. And I agree, right? But the weird thing is there's a part behind my head where it's like, Leffen wins Summit? Yeah, Mango Zane top two. It's like, what does anyone need to do? Like,
I mentioned that it like calls the other stuff into question because it would make me think that it would put an asterisk on those accomplishments, right? Like it wouldn't get rid of them, but winning that tournament would do so much beyond just that tournament with Leffen, in my opinion.
Well,
so it wouldn't be like.
Do you think that it propels Leffen in your mind above Mew2King?
Well, like, it would make me think that Leffen was just, like, maybe the best in the world for a whole year. So this is what I'm trying to say. It wouldn't just mean that, Leffen won another major, add that to his accolades. It's that he won the biggest tournament. It would be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to put it this way. Remember when PP came back?
He could have dominated the last 2 years.
Yeah, remember when PP... Right. So remember before Apex 2015, people were like, oh, dude, like, I don't know if you can take that much time off and come back and win a major. Like that, I think PP's going to get messed up. Like, it's really tough. The field is harder. And then right after PP won, I was around back then. I remember this. Right after PP won, people were like, "It's such bullshit, dude. PP just like he doesn't play anyone. He just studies the competition. Of course he's gonna come back and win. Like this is such BS. He just studies everyone. Like he studies everyone. He doesn't go to anything. Yeah, obviously PP's the best player in the world. That's what it's gonna be like if Leffen comes back and wins a summit. It's gonna be this crazy thing where it's like beforehand we're gonna be like, yeah, it could happen, but I don't know. The field got tough. Like Mango and Zane are really good. Wizzy and IBW are tough. And then immediately once Leffen wins, we're gonna be like, oh yeah, like all you people that doubted Leffen, like what is wrong with you?
We're talking about adding probably the second biggest tournament win of his life, right? Because after Evo was bigger, right? But it'd be like the second biggest, or maybe you can even say the most impressive, whatever. Because it's
it'd be up there.
It'd be pretty impressive to not be able to go to stuff for like a year and a half and just come back and win a big one, right? Like that.
I mean, he did that. He did that at Gommel.
Yeah, so he's capable.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think. Look, I wouldn't be shocked if he wins, like because he's Leffen, right? But in a tier of players which don't really have like that sort of level of wins, like each of them have like 3 or 4. So when you add one more, it does change their legacy like a lot, right? And so I think it would move if he wins Summit. It would probably move him above Mew2King for me. Like I think it's already close, and I think it would pretty clearly put him there.
I just want to say I love this conversation we're having. I think these are really interesting questions about Mew2King versus PP and Leffen. I think it forces us to re-examine the list, critically, engaging multiple perspectives. But I'm saying this all because I just want to say to every stupid person that was like, "Oh, why do you have Ken over Mew2King? Why do you have Ken over?" Shut up! None of you people know anything. You ever talk this long about Mew2King's resume in detail? You ever talk about tournament wins? Shut the fuck up! None of you people know shit. None of you people know anything. Look at us four talking about specific tournaments. We're talking years. We're talking resumes. We're talking accolades. There is so much more thought in this conversation that we're having about Mew2King versus two people that I put below him. We're having more thought. This is open ended versus just like, oh, why do you have Mew2King above Ken? Shut up. None of you people know anything. So stupid, dude.
Okay, can I say
so dumb? All of you that hated on this just because Ken was one spot above Mew2King, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, I'm so done with these Mew2King fanboys. I've had it. I've had it with them.
My interjection here is that Edwin is coming off of a week vacation with his spouse, a belated honeymoon. And this is like the most enraged I've ever seen him. Like clearly,
holy moly!
You cannot.
I knew that.
I
didn't know that.
You cannot take him away from Melee for a week. Melee discourse is like, it's like his methadone, right? He needs this. It's like it's not good for him, but if he doesn't have it, he's just so much worse.
Did you guys see this?
This is what Edwin is like after a week of vacation.
He has so many more years. He played 3 characters. Oh my god, he won like 2 premier championships.
Did you take like Adderall before?
Do you know that?
Hey,
do you know that right about the time we started the show, Mew2King made an interesting tweet. I don't know if you guys are seeing this. Mew2King apparently might enter Smash World Tour last time.
God, don't get me started on this guy in Smash World Tour.
Mew2King win Smash World Tour, all right?
Mew2King is gonna. I'm a.
Oh
you know
my
what?
God! I hope I have to eat my fucking hat.
I've run the gamut from Mew2King fan to look. I've earned the right to be a hater on Mew2King. Me and my team, we made 2 videos on Mew2King. I've earned the right to be a hater on this. I hope if he goes to Smash World Tour at this point, the way that everything is going, I hope he loses to Wally.
Christ.
I mean, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Wally's pretty good. You can order.
Yeah, Wally's nasty.
I think Mew2King coming back. And
I think Wally's favorite over Mew2King.
Dude, I saw the first Wally.
I think Wally's favorite over
Mew2King is done.
I think Mew2King coming back.
Don't watch that second one though. That second one makes Mew2King look really good.
It is actually impossible for him to come back and win. Unlike Leffen with the Summit thing.
That's so mean, by the way.
Leffen literally blur. Leffen, I talked to Zane at Summit 11 and I was like, have you played Leffen recently? And he was like, yeah, like he was beating me up last time we played. He like won all of the last sets.
Zane's a bit humble, but he's a humble man. But the point is that Leffen winning Summit, I can see it. Mew2King winning SWT. I cannot see it. Like it would.
I can't see. No, I can't.
This
see
is a hypothetical of like.
We're sweating once he sees Wally in bracket. I don't know.
I think it would be incredibly cool.
Zane's going, right? Yeah,
Zane's going.
Even if he
Fluff's
can get
going.
second, I don't think he could beat Zane. I don't think he could beat Zane.
No,
Or
Zane's
Mango,
so
or
tough.
If he
like,
gets
there's
to
like-
Zane, Mango's not going to Smash World Tour, I think, right?
Oh,
So-
right. But in general, like it'd be very difficult for me to see that happen.
It's
It'd
a
be
fucked
cool.
up crowd, yeah.
It'd be dope to see him, come back and tearing shit up. I still think he'd do better than losing to Wally. Well,
Yeah, I mean, it's just a funny. It's like a funny It's plausible enough to where
he's gonna practice for a month or two. Like Jason is, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
No, I will say on a serious note with Mew2King, just really quickly because I know this is off topic. I do think like based on whatever like
I don't think it's off topic at all.
Well, I mean, just like how Mew2King doing, like the conversations around Mew2King always spiral into like a 30-minute discussion.
True.
So the one thing I'll say about Mew2King right now is I think he's still like clearly pretty good. I don't think he could win a major, but like I think if someone like Kadoran provides like an idea of like the upper range of like current Mew2King's potential, I think like somewhere in the median is probably like Logan. Like I still expect Mew2King to do really well against like top 10 to like 25 Foxes. I think like he'll still be really good against most of the Falcos. I don't know how he'll do against like someone like Face Roll. Like I don't know how Sheik will hold up against some of the tougher opponents he'll play in bracket. But like
I mean, I know how he'll do against Face Roll. I've actually seen that set. Both sets, in fact.
Fair enough.
Pretty.
Yeah.
But
fair enough.
But I see what you're saying.
I mean,
I see what
very
you're
pretty,
saying.
very pretty.
Like I think the Falcons will be tough for him also. Maybe I think like the top three, like
Edwin just lives in half the community, so it's gonna be tough, right?
Yeah.
It's not possible.
Is that I think Mew2King comes back. If he actually comes back, goes to tournaments, I think he hits a hard ceiling. Like I think that those.
Yeah. Agreed.
I think HBox. Yeah, maybe he's always been able to like get sets off of HBox, but in terms of like doing well versus HBox, always been hard for him. Mango, we talked about that. Zane, as it stands right now, pretty impossible. Leffen, Leffen's possible. Plup,
Totally doable.
Plup, I'm not too confident.
I think
Plup.
I'm not expecting Mew2King to beat Plup. I think that's a hard
then you get
shot.
like Wizzy and stuff like it just gets scary and scary. Maybe he beats SFAT or something, but
Mew2King comes back, and I expect, like you said, maybe 5th or 6th again. Like it's possible, doable for him.
Yeah.
But we really need the best, and I don't think it's. I mean, like, bro, if you're that good, you can get there. But as we've been seeing in this current era, the gap of the tippy top versus the next, and the next, it's actually weirdly been widening. Like they've just been getting really good.
Tippy top, right?
I mean, it feels like the people who are working the hardest are the IBWs, the Zanes.
Yeah.
Not Mango, but Mango's just, I don't know, the talent level with that kid. I don't freaking get it.
I mean, I think he works hard.
He works pretty hard, right? He streams a lot of hours in the day.
I think leading up to tournaments, he works hard. I think he definitely takes breaks. But
so I think the Mew2King, Leffen, and PP discussion was pretty good. I think we're all in agreement that like they kind of are close-ish together. And I think for the most part, like the top element of the list or like the top 10 is pretty like self-explanatory, or you understand the rationale for different parts. Like if you disagree with something, you could kind of see the rationale for it, even if you don't agree with that rationale. Yeah. I want to talk, and I'll give my answer in a little bit, is I want to get each of your thoughts on if there's one thing in the list that you could really change, or because you don't see the rationale for it.
I know mine.
Yeah.
I know mine.
What would it be? Toph, start.
Mine is I think bananas at 96 is offensive.
Yes,
too low?
dude. You DM
I do.
Like
I think that I do. I think that because it came out right and okay. Look, I think that if you're going to be subjective, and you have to say this, then you have to say, look, I'm putting him in the 90 to 100 range because he's a fucking wobbler, and I think it's a stupid strategy, and I think it's ruining the game, and blah blah blah. Okay, then that's fine.
No,
okay,
I wouldn't put it in those terms.
You kind of put it in those terms today while talking to me.
Well, like
half jokingly.
Listen, it is so rare that you have players that just fucking get multiple like wins against three god level players. That is
three,
pretty.
five
I
players.
think I
That
think
is
his
really rare.
accomplishments I think his peak accomplishments are
He
incredible.
had a couple top 8s,
He,
and
he ended up making the list, but I also think that Bananas has a short career, and just in general, on the panel, I am okay with being the outlier in this with him. I think volatility of ices goes both ways. Like, we think about their peak accomplishments and stuff, but we don't think about, like, you know, Bananas getting, like, losing to Surfero and stuff at like big events. We don't think about
Surfero's
like
pretty good.
Yeah, but we're talking about.
Just because
I
you
know
don't
he's
know
good.
who Surfero is.
No, I know who
Surfero
Surfero is. He beat him with he beat him with Ganondorf. I think
Surfero's
remember
pretty
this.
good. I think Surfero's pretty good.
But we're talking about an all-time legacy.
Surfero beat a player that you have ranked quite a bit higher than Bananas.
I'm talking about like all-time legacy at their best, right? Like, I'm just saying, like, someone who hates volatility.
Dude, if you beat 3 god level players, I just think 9 of 100 is offensive.
Yeah, but like he wasn't around for much time. Like, he has like lows like that. Like, to me, I was okay with being the outlier on punishing people for like really rangy volatility. For what it's worth, I have Bananas ranks in front of me right now for where the rest of the panel had him, and it was pretty all over the place. So one of the panelists abstained on having Bananas somewhere.
Coward.
Another panelist,
I don't know who it was, but that was
another panelist had him 91. Or another panelist had him 115. I had him 104. One other panelist had 92, and the last 2 panelists that gave a vote had him.
Surfero beat Moki right after Bananas. Surfero beat Moki the same tournament. I'm
81.
Was that the mango?
Surfero's pretty good, dude.
No, I think Surfero's go. I know who he is.
He's got a nasty Falcon.
We're talking about the gap in like the top one.
Toph,
but he beat him with Ganon in that event.
Yeah, hit me. Go ahead, Wheat.
So you get an email, and it's from PG.
Yeah.
And they accidentally send you the list.
Yeah.
And then they think it's someone else. You know, they think you had one.
Yeah.
And they say, does this look good? Is this correct? Like, just double check to see if we have everything right. And you are allowed to make one change. You're allowed to be like,
it's Bananas.
You can't make a bunch.
Oh, I put myself at 1.
Okay,
but seriously, okay.
Where do you move Bananas? Bananas moves from 96, and you take.
So that is your choice. You're moving Bananas.
Yeah. Specific numbers I do think are a lot harder at.
Just give me a range. I am at 81. I will.
Yeah. Like 70 to 80, 90. Somewhere between the 70s and maybe the low 80s.
So 90s.
I don't know, man. Who else was in the 90s? Like, who was 97 and who was 95?
Dude, you said 86, and he ended up like 92 on the list.
Listen,
that's like
as someone,
this is what I mean.
Wait. Listen, as someone who was ranked 90th for multiple years on the MOM ranking, let me tell you, getting ranked in the 90s when you feel very strongly that you should be in the 80s hurts every time. And I know you're just thinking, oh, it's just the 80s and the 90s. Let me tell you, every time I saw that I was in the fucking 90s and they put like fucking Reno at the time in the 80s when I was tossing Reno around.
Toph, I'm imagining you saying like
I was very upset about it. I
imagine you saying like Blunted Object or like Scion or something, being like, that's bullshit.
No, those guys are amazing. Those guys are amazing. I see what you're saying. No, if anything, Scion and Blunted Object should go up. But let me tell you, when you're in the 90s, you see the people in the 80s and you get very upset about it. Yes, I would put it in the 80s, and to you, it doesn't feel like a big jump. But to someone in the 90s, let me tell you, because if you're in the 90s, you're almost not on the list. When you're in the 80s, you're like, oh, I'm in the 80s.
All right, I respect the empathetic perspective.
So yes, I would put it in the 80s.
As a perennial, as a 90s-er, I appreciate your perspective. But dude, to me, as a panelist,
he beat Mango, Mew2King and SWT, and then he beat like Fiction. That one, like he beat like Fiction.
Yeah, he won NFA over Fiction.
Yeah,
he beat a lot of people.
I lost $20 on betting against Bananas.
That's why you are just like jaded. You have a personal vendetta against him, and you're taking it out on him by ranking him 104.
Dude, if he was not an Ices player, you would have put him higher.
Maybe,
if he was a Fox player that beat Plump, Mango, and fucking who was it? Mew2King in his career.
Mew2King.
You would have.
I don't mind being the volatility hater in the bottom. The rest of the panel outweighed my opinion on this. That was fine.
I don't even know if you were the volatility.
Was Surfero his worst loss?
Yeah,
even his worst loss. Did he have worse losses than?
I think he has a couple in Texas, but like I wouldn't really count.
Safaro
I wouldn't
probably
really
his
count.
lowest ranked. He lost to Morse Code and STJ, but both of those players are good.
I mean,
so
Safaro's also good.
Safaro's also good.
Safaro beat Moki. He beat Moki.
Safaro's good.
Where did you guys put Moki?
Like,
don't answer the question, Edwin. He's just going to use it to make fun of you.
There you go.
Don't supply him.
Yeah, but I think Safaro beat him at the Mango or something, right?
But yeah,
my memory's rusty.
Yeah. I think Bananas as change is one that I agree with. I like getting that DM. So if I, let's say I got this DM from Toph, that was very funny to see. I also, it wasn't a DM, it was an in-person conversation I had with Blur at main stage about someone who should have been higher. Now, Blur, you get to narrow it down to one person. You mentioned Rob Money. I don't know if you're picking the same person though.
I might not. Okay, so could I do? So clearly, Edwin has a problem with it. A lot of the ones I think should be higher or lower are like plus or minus 5. Mm-hmm. Some of them are plus or minus 10 to 15.
All right, that's crazy.
So some of them are larger, but overall, I don't think it's a bad list.
You just don't want to get yelled at. Edwin's in a yelling mood right now.
No, he is
only at Mew2King fanboys. That's it.
No. Like I said, you guys' top 8, which is the part that really matters the most, is the same as my top 8. It's literally the exact, like Copper and Copy, the exact same top 8. And a lot of the players are in the top 25, are around where I would have put them, with plus or minus sometimes a few. And so one of the most egregious ones is Zane, which I have more closer to like the 12, 13 range, and you guys have at all the way at 9th. I'm not gonna use that my 1 on him because I think literally in 2 months I'll also have him at 9 because I think he's SWC, Genesis, and some are gonna happen. So whatever, he's gonna get up there anyway. Like this kid's gonna be within a year, he's gonna be in like the 7 range, right? Like the 7, 8, 6, 5 range. That's here. Like it's he's gonna go up. Whatever. I think it's too early to put him that high, but fine. I think Cody was a bit egregious with him this high already. Like he's right. He's above Wobbles, for example. And just like, bro, like, did you know Wobbles' career? Like it's a lot. To me, it's not that close in that one. And so these are like the higher rankings. The more like some of the egregious ones, I think probably the most absurdly egregious one is Swift Base. I mentioned it earlier.
No,
I love Tim Tilley. But like, of course, there's people.
Dude, I love Swift Base.
But he's usually like a dude that just gets 33rd, 49th at almost everything he's ever entered, and he has a lot of longevity, and it's great. But like, the great tournaments that Swift Base has, they're just not there, right? And the people around him are like, I mean, Rob Money is a straight like 14 or was it 13 ranks below him, and Rob Money was like top 8 his entire era, like over and over again. Bananas was beating god level players, and
we're talking about the Falco, right?
We're talking about
Falco and
shit. Yeah, the Falco. Yeah. Like we're talking about these. This is the sort of stuff where I'm just like, okay, Swift Base is just super like it doesn't make sense. I also thought Meds making the list. Meds is actually in the best form he's ever been right now. But
and he's a dad.
And he's a dad.
How did he become a father and he got better?
I was thinking that the other day. He might be one of the only people to do that.
Wait, where did you guys put Swift Base?
We had him in the mid-80s.
85.
Mid-80s.
Above wife, dope, husband, Spark. Like above Spark, like Toph, it's just even a modern comparison.
Oh, I think
makes sense.
Well, I think I don't know. I think Spark should go up, but
you know, like
so
so
Blur.
for me,
if I can say something really quick about Swift Base before you see, I'm talking quieter now because I'm getting text to keep it down. But just really quick. One thing on Swift was that he just I'll say me and one of the other panelists really agreed on this. Like one of the things we joked about like going into making the list is that we thought that like Swift Base was incredibly underrated, and because like just seeing him get stuff like 13th or whatever at Don't Go Down There Jeff, like getting really top-notch career wins over like a ton of the best talent on the West Coast, along with just like consistently being like a top 5 player in the Northeast or at least like New England, and like doing so much there. We really thought he had like one of the most underrated careers because he was always just like hovering around good and just like good enough to like always take a set off like a top 30 player in the world when everyone least expected it.
Look, like he has longevity. He has a lot of top 100 years. I think him making the list overall, sure. But like 80, like the people he's above in particular, it's just like, bro, like move him down 10,
Yeah.
12, 13. I think
I
a lot
just
of
loved his
people,
longevity a lot,
I
and
think
also
a
I'm
lot of people
biased
would have said,
because
yeah,
I like Swift.
I'm biased for Swift as well, but I just think you guys went a little too far with it, right?
Would that be your change then?
No, actually.
Yeah, you got to use your change to put someone up. You're not going to use your change to put someone down.
Okay, I have a few others I would love to list, but whatever. I'll skip forward in terms of like these were my nitpicks.
Also, I looked it up, and Swift, the best person Swift actually beat it. Don't go another Jeff was Sheridan. Don't get me wrong, I love Sheridan.
See what I'm saying,
Don't get me wrong, I love Sheridan. But
Bananas beat gods, bro. Like just say it. All right. Anyway, so the guy I would move up.
He also beat Pocky D. Damn, he took out all that. He took out all that crew. He beat Pocky D and Sheridan at the same tournament. He beat all the.
So I'm split here because I think Ice was really low and Ice could have gone up. But the guy I really want to, I think the guy I would really push to go up, is probably Shroomed. And so he got 20th, and I know it wouldn't be by that many placings.
Yeah,
but when you're
20th,
in the top
good
20,
placing.
When you're in the top 20, like every placing matters.
Every placing matters a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
And
who does he go above on the current list in the
a lot
top
of people
20?
actually.
A lot of people
that's above him. I mean,
I think he goes to like maybe
is he above SFAT?
He might be 15th, bro. Like
is he above SFAT?
Maybe. I don't think
that's actually
good for
as
30
a
years.
As a NorCal resident, as a longtime NorCal resident, that's actually not as hot of a take as you think it is.
Is it because of the years of Shroom?
Well, nationally, he like Zach. Basically, the last few years has been overall a little bit better, but not by much.
Dewan is the higher peak for sure. Dewan was on the first MMM.
Sure.
He was top 8ing everything with Doc.
He was.
He top 8'd all the majors. It was insane.
Dewan was crazy. And so I see him below Hacks, for example. And I'm like, look, I love Aziz. And same with Johnny. I don't see those guys as higher than Dewan. Almost like that felt like 20 was the lowest you could possibly put him. Actually, I felt like 18th was the lowest you could possibly put him. You guys somehow managed to go to 20. And
so you would put him for sure above Hacks.
Who was 19? Edwin, who was 19? Who was 18?
Hacks was 19, I think.
Johnny
Hacks and Johnny.
Like Dewan was just getting top 8 every freaking year, man. And like it was like very consistent and was for a large, like in terms of longevity, almost no one beats him out there. If you want to add in the multiple character things, I don't really care about that. But overall, I looked him at as usually, you compare him, let's say, in Axe's career, you guys had all the way at 12. And it's like if Axe didn't win Summit, that's a pretty even comparison. It's not that far, right? It's pretty close because Dewan sometimes was above Axe many times, and it was really, really close. And it's like
I can see Dewan going up
below. Like it just seems weird to me because there's a guy who was just getting top 8s left and right, like over and over and over again for so long. So I think that'd be the one I would change the most.
I think the reason why I think the reason why we thought 20 or around that range would be good. So like just really briefly, looking at his votes, the highest vote on him was 19 and the lowest was 23. So this was actually something that the panel was pretty like, relatively, 4 spots is not really that much from like 19 to 23.
Put him at 23. Like I'm just like, what?
I think I think the thing with Shroomed was that his consistency and longevity was really good. But I think like compared to the reason why it might seem like there's a gap, or not even a gap, but like the reason why I don't think he has like if you think about his best major, like he has really good wins at majors, don't get me wrong. Like obviously beating PP is great, beating Mango great as well. I don't know if he has like anything like a second place run that SFAT has at like Shine. Like I don't know if he has I don't know if he has something like
Clash.
Yeah,
okay,
I mean even that's a smaller run, but yeah,
that's a fair argument for putting him at like 16th or 17th, right? But he's at 20. Right, like
you don't think Hacks or Johnny have like an argument at all?
Not really. I don't think so.
I guess by annual ranks, it's like he was 7th.
By annual rank, he's almost every year he was higher than Johnny and Hacks. Like literally, if you just compare like year to year,
yeah, early in the decade for sure.
One is just better almost their entire careers. They overlap, and he has more longevity, and he's better almost every single year they were playing at the same time. So for me, it's like it's relatively clear that Dewan was just better.
But I do think right? I do think over the last like 5 years, like SFAT's really stayed up there. And
Zach, Dewan, I think you can make an argument. I would maybe edges Dewan, but I don't know because Zach's been really good recently, and fine. I think those are like right next to each other, right? That's fine. My argument's more against the people that
Like Johnny and Hacks.
Johnny Hacks, and maybe even the KDJs and Isaiahs even. Like you could even go that far, right? And I'm actually lower on Isaiah than almost anyone. I think that I suppose I kind of favor the old school sometimes. I think Isaiah's peak is if you actually just break down the results, he fell off hard once 06 came around. KJ was like,
what if he tried, Blur? What if he tried?
KJ was never like super the best, and he has like MLG Long Island as a great win, but that's a lot of
but I also think that you're like comparing people who are potentially best, people with major wins versus someone who's does not have those but has more longevity.
Yeah, sure, I don't think KDJ and Isaiah.
It comes back to the SFAT.
We have SFAT. The list has SFAT.
I'm telling you guys, I brought that up for a reason. I just think it's pertinent that we get out of the way.
The list has SFAT above Korean DJ, right? So it's like, if I think Dewan and SFAT are like roughly equal, then there's something to be said, right? And I don't think for KDJ, it was really he was best in the world. Like, if I'd agree if it was like, but he was really the best in the world. It was like KDJ wasn't really. He was really fourth, probably. Like,
no, don't say that. That breaks my New England heart,
bro. Like Ken was.
He beat Mew2King. He had great records. He just didn't. He just had school.
PC was clearly above. I think Mew2King by 07 was clearly above. Like, like he was probably fourth, and that's great. But Shroom, like, what did he peak at? Like sixth? I think he peaked at sixth, right? It's not that different in terms of peak and longevity and overall prime. It's not close, right? So if you're saying KJ's 1 year, year and a half, beats the 10, sure, but I think Dewan has a great argument, just like SFAT does.
Yeah. I think, we were talking about this at main stage just for like a brief bit. And one thing I mentioned to you that I think is really, it's something that going into this, I didn't know how important it would be, but like having another year, like 1 year when you're watching it happen, right? When you're living it and it's just like, oh, SFAT's like top 8 stuff again. It doesn't feel that big, but when you like look at it at the accomplishments, like the scope of it all, having another year is really big. So if you look at SFAT versus Shroom, the fact that SFAT has past 3 years, 4 years, he's been still performing at a pretty decent level. And you mentioned, maybe he wasn't peaking the same, but like 2016, SFAT was still really good. He was ranked like 7th or 8th. I do think that when it comes to Shroom, it might just be for some people, one, the Shroom that we are seeing currently is obviously not the Shroom that we've seen in the past, which
he literally threw against Ringler. He
threw against Ringler.
He was trying to lose. I know that I was like, if we were in any other esport, they would have investigated that match for match fixing. Straight up. They would have been like, no. You sit down right there. We're going to start investigating right on the spot for match fixing. But since we're melee, we know that he just wanted to get drunk.
Yep.
So that's
wasn't SFAT number 7 in 2016?
Was he 7? He was 7 or 8. I think was his overall peak, which is still very high. I mean, if you want to talk about like Shroom, that's comparable. I mean, he had those wins against Hungrybox. Obviously, lifetime not favored versus HBox.
Yeah, not
like,
recently.
Having those wins, that's still really good. I mean, Shroom does very good, and you yourself are not even bringing up the fact that the what he's done for the meta in terms of Doc.
Yeah, and
it's really great.
He did it with Dr. Mario, bro.
Yeah.
That character sucks.
And then he went to a different character and did really well. And then he beat Wizzy with Marth. Yes, it's pretty incredible.
Dewan's insane.
So what's your change then?
So what were there some rules as to I can't move someone down, I have to move someone up? Was that the rule?
No, that's not even a rule. I just think that it's like,
it feels better.
Imagine somebody watches this and it's that person and they're like, wow, you really used your one shot to move me down.
True. Okay. No, that's fine. I'm acceptable. I'm accepting this, that it's going to be mean. Chudat, you're moved down. This is my one. I'm moving you down, Chudat.
I love that this is yours because this was a very controversial one.
A lot of people have Chew
this
at like
controversial, 9. Huh?
A lot of people have Chew at like that's pretty common, right?
Tell us.
After I kind of felt this way doing it, and I really felt this way after seeing how people responded. I'm kind of in like a kill all boomers type of mindset with this. And it's like what Chew has done for the amount of time he's done it is so incredibly impressive. Right?
Yes.
It's so incredibly
Yes.
impressive.
Where's the
And
butt?
yet-
I
And
can't wait for
yet-
the butt. The butt's gonna be so good.
It's gonna be so
Where's
sick.
where's the wins? Does he win like Wizzy does? Huh? Like
He's
what
just another SFAT. He's
just
another 30-year-old SFAT. At the
No,
end of the day,
no,
choose another fucking
because
SFAT.
SFAT was what? Top 15 the entire time? Chew,
Okay.
we're like, Chew's got so many years of legacy, and it's like 35th or whatever.
Dude,
and it's
to
still
ground
impressive.
To ground it, how far are you talking about moving him down? Are we talking like 1 spot, 2 spots, 10 spots?
That's a good point.
I
That's a
think-
good question.
Below PC. Why don't we say? What is that?
Okay, so
That's
you're
fair.
moving him on 2 spots.
I think
So
that's
we're-
super
Okay,
fair.
wait,
I think that's super
sorry.
fair.
Below Wizzy. Let's get him below Wizzy.
Okay, are you including main stage? Because main stage actually might move up Wizzy 1 or 2. That's how crazy that is.
We were talking about this. Like how I view it right now, I think that Wizzy with main stage would be above Chew. Wizzy without main stage, I think could still be above Chew. But yeah, put him below PC, put him below Wizzy. Those are two players who were actually able to win majors.
Yeah, I'm down to put Wizzy up. I'm definitely down
Yeah,
to put Wizzy
why not?
up. I think Wizzy's
Main stage was a good win. That's a
So-
big dub.
Let it be known that
Yeah.
out of the balloters on ChewDat, I unsurprisingly had Chew the lowest at 14.
You're the icy satyr. Is it weird that I both want Chew moved down, but I want bananas moved up? Is that weird?
The
Is
highest
that weird?
the highest placing for Chew on our list was 9 from one
Yeah,
of the
that's,
panelists, and that was the lowest
9.
at 14.
I think you guys what's funny is that your panel, I think relative to community consensus, a lot of people have Chew at 9. Chew at 9 is like a normal what a lot of
Yeah.
people put him at.
I've heard this.
I think it's just one of those things
opinion
where
from some
like you just see that
The
he's been good.
wins.
Hey, can I step out of the bounds of talking about this with any even sense of it, objectivity, even whatsoever remotely in the slightest?
Yeah,
And
go
just,
ahead.
like,
I love it.
As
I love it.
we were all around in 2018 or whatever, 2017, 2018. What was it when Chew was like they put him really high, right? Because
Seventh?
he was right.
Oh
because
god,
he
that
was beating
tier is
Mango.
awful.
And then
Ugh.
he fell back down to earth. And what was he at the next rankings? What
So
was the
I don't think he
summer-
made the
Hold
top
on, let me pull
50
it
in
up.
the
The summer
summer
rank,
one of the
he-
summer ones next
so
year.
he was
The
7th
summer
on the
rank.
summer rank. I think he was 11th on the year-end rank. S2J was above him, which
and then immediately went to 46.
well, he didn't make the summer rank.
Yeah, he didn't make the top
He
50.
didn't make top 50 for summer.
Oh, for 2018 summer. And then for 2018, he made 46.
He made 46.
For me, I'll just say it. I felt like that. I was like, finally. I was waiting. I was waiting for like the universe to course correct itself. I was like, dude, yes, this is where. Because like, dude, Chew doesn't watch this shit, right? Okay, whatever.
I don't think he does.
Chew, I love you. I have a lot of respect for you, but you know this, and I know this for a fact because he came up to me in the tournament, and we were talking about this. We like sat down at some tournament during the year he was like 7th, and we were playing friendlies, and I was just like beating him. I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. I just don't think he's that good. I don't know. I think Mango just literally gets grabbed and fucking gets wobbled and loses.
Dude.
And you can't say this because people get upset at you, but like my like personal, again, this is extremely. There's no
I love
objectivity
it. I love
whatsoever,
it.
but I was just like, dude,
and
I
it
just
should be said. It
he's
should
that
be
good.
said.
I think
It should be said that Chew
tournaments
across
harder
eras,
and friendlies are.
and across eras, he's done well with or without wobbling. And
True.
I
true.
know.
fact-
No, I know. I know that.
before
Yes,
it was even
yes.
invented, he was getting his peak. So in fact, most of his best results are without wobbling. Almost all of them actually are
He's
without
choose
wobbling.
incredible. Choose incredible. Choose incredible.
Chew
choose incredible.
Dats is
Don't
Chew
get me wrong.
Dats. So to clarify that, but I will say this: I was sitting in the chair commentating that DreamHack where it was Mew2King's Gan versus Chew Dats Fox, and I
Oh,
thought
Oh,
in my mind I couldn't say this on commentary because I'm supposed to keep things hype.
you're supposed to be professional. Yes, it
I'm
was the
supposed to be
worst melee you've
professional.
ever seen in a top 8, right? It
I
was the
was
worst melee you've
gen-
seen in a top 8.
I was genuinely wondering if you put me in as the third player as a free for all.
Yeah.
Do I beat that Ganon and that
You would
Fox? do I win those? Because I'm just like,
No,
I don't
that was
know,
a
bro.
bad game. That was-
Honestly, one of the stupidest counterpick wars
Oh
ever.
my
What is
god, it
happening?
was so bad.
Yeah, that's like Mew2King's like eighth character.
Oh.
Choose like Fox is not very good. Like everyone's if you played as Fox, you know it's like not that good. And you're just like, this is in the grand finals. And almost while I find that like super awkward, it's almost impressive. Like this guy had the level of influence on the game 10 years after his prime.
See,
this is what I was sitting down to
these
do.
These are the kind of arguments you can't make. I could not be part of this rankings panel and make this kind of argument, right? I can't say, dude, I just fucking played Chew and I just felt like he fucking kind of was overrated as fuck. Like I can't say that, right? But but for
the end of the day, he was
very
doing
personal,
grands.
yes.
End of the day, he was doing grand, and at the end of the day, like,
and then he got fucking 46th. So
yeah,
I don't know what happened.
I mean, throughout his eras, there were a lot of people who just like kind of bopped him, right? How is Az and Chew, Edwin? I don't think it was close.
Yeah.
Not close.
I love that you. I love that you brought this up, because this is one of the things that I held against Chew. Like similar to like we remember again, like this is okay, look, I am a High School Climbers hated. I'll just say it. But the thing that like bothers me a lot is like the volatility and how we always remember the like high points. We remember Chew for winning like Pound 2, but like a lot of people forget that during that era, like when Chillin and Asin were active and at their best, like they destroyed him. Like Chew lost a bum, like and like even in the modern era when Chew was getting like his mini renaissance, like you remember the MDVA summit when he went there and just got
he
got thrashed by Red, Milkman, like Jerry or I forget if Jerry beat him or not.
Another thing to say is that like even regionally, right? MDVA for the longest time was H2IL dominated. A lot of people had resentment over it, particularly because one strategy that Chillin and Chew would do, and I'd love to make fun of them now more in the modern era where no one does this stuff anymore, is Toph was always a threat, right? Toph was so good. And that's a guy who I actually think should move up on the top 100 list. But
where was he?
Toph, he was like...
Is he on there?
He is on there, but I remember that I wanted him up.
He
was 66. Okay. So I would say move him up a little bit because he's actually a little bit underrated. But nonetheless, Toph was never able to win a local because with the strategy that HOI would do is that because Chew is unbeatable versus Sheik. In fact, has one of the craziest all-time records, him versus Sheik. It's like Armada versus IC's tier. It's like the old Mew2King versus Falcon tier. Like it's just like, bro, he just doesn't lose, right? And so what they would do is they would make sure that wherever Toph was, whether it was winners or losers, they would send
Chew. Yeah.
They would send Chew.
And then they would split the pot.
And then they would split the pot. So basically they'd have winners send me Chillin Chew, and then they would make sure that Chew would lose on purpose to chill it. Like literally garbage characters. Go to losers, take out Toph, because Toph could be Chillin completely, right? And then it would be Chew Chillin finals. And if you're gonna count something against anyone for anything, stuff like that. I'm like, God damn it, Chew. You never had to do that stuff because he was the best player in the room in those locals. He could have just won. But like even locally, he wasn't that dominant because the guys like you said, like Red, like these Milkmans, like across those years, those guys would take plenty of sets. Like those are not like if you're talking about a person who's like in this top 12 range.
Dude, we used to roast Chillin Chew for this shit before I was as close to Chillin as I am now. I remember it was one of the CEOs 2015 or 2016. Everyone was hanging out by the pool and Chillin and Chew walked by, and I was in the pool with like Hugo and a couple other people, and Hugo saw Chillin and Chew walk by. And he said something like, and they were talking about something, and Hugo was, I guess, feeling a little bit, he was having fun or whatever, and he was like, "Oh, look who it is! Like, what's the strategy this time? What's the plan this time? You guys thinking about, like what's the collusion going to be? Well, who's throwing to who this time around?" And they're like,
they would make sure they would. But anyway, so I think that is. Like you look at the people around him, like we're so high on the list that you look at the people around him. You go down 10, 15 ranks, and the people in those ranks ran the region, like for like often 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And Chew actually never ran his region. Asin was better locally in the early years.
Mind you, tough region.
It's was the hardest region, and then. There was a period of time where Chew was the best, but they had to do these grimy stuff, and then actually wasn't the best, right? And was dropping left and right. And so I don't think locals obviously matter as much for when you get this high on this list, but it is weird, right? Like when you're this high in this list and you're just like, what? Now, I'm someone who still has Chu really high, despite all this, because I mean, he's insane. But what Edwin is saying is right, is that in general, a lot of people be like, oh, Chu has all these second places. Like, he was the second best in the world in the Ken Golden Age era. It's like, no, Azam was the second best. Like, that was not only, that was consensus. There was no argument. Azam was the second best. Chu was third best.
Right.
He happened to get a lot of second places because maybe who was entered and whatever. And he was really consistent, right? But you know, Azam was genuinely, like, just across the board considered, and his results speak for it, second best in the world. Sometimes some people would say there were periods where Azam was the best, depending after what tournament you're talking about. But nonetheless, it is a bit of a knock. I still think it's crazy though, because the longevity is crazy, and I do think his old results.
The peaks are insane. He was ranked second in the world at one time.
Yeah, and it's just such a long period of time, and you can make some nitpicky criticism about almost everyone around him that are similar to the ones I'm making about him, right? So, in the end of the day, I still think he's really high, but I see what you guys are saying, and I don't think it would be insane, or it wouldn't take a lot for the guys like Plup, Axe, Wizzy, etc. to solidify themselves above him, because there are knocks on his resume, right? It's not as solidified as I think the Azans and Kens are that are a little bit above, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I think this is I'm going to go somewhere a little different for what I would change about the list.
He's going to be like, nothing. I made the perfect list.
Yes, actually nothing. No, I think the one thing I will say is that, like, I think in the process of creating the original nominee list, we ended up with like 120 or so for the panelists to vote from. But in the process of making that like list of 120, I had to cut it down from an initial like 180 players. So I think there's like some of the people at the bottom of the nominees list who either the panel overwhelmingly declined to vote on or ranked significantly lower than some of the other players. I have a couple, not so much regrets, but I do kind of wonder if I replaced like some of the 110 to 120 spot players with like the people I had envisioned in 121 to like 130. I wonder, like, you know, would it have made a final impact on the list? This is something that I thought about. Like, I mean, I could list like several examples of like when you're grouping players like this, it gets really difficult to kind of make like
who's your most notable snub? Like, basically, person who didn't make the list that you're just gonna like, maybe they should have.
From the top 100 or the nominees list?
Let's go with the top 100, but I'd also like to hear both.
Okay, so I'll keep it directed to the list since that was wrong. I actually don't know why I brought up the nominees thing. It totally was not the prompt at all. But my big thing that I guess it wasn't really that big of a thing, because I put this player at 100, so I was more than willing to understand that there's a good chance that he wouldn't make the list. But I wish Sung made it. I think that Sung would have been.
That's the answer you could have given with me on the call. I think
Sung would have been such a fitting 100 spot, not just for the accomplishment.
If you really want him at 100,
right?
You can't place him at 100 on your ballot. Well, you have to put him at like 60 or something.
I should have metagamed it. But the main thing with Sung is that I think like, and like this is something that one of the other panelists agreed with me on this, and one of the things with Sung, I think, is in addition to winning an SSS, which, like, you know, in 2014, I know it's not a major, but let's be real. It's like
it was basically a major.
It's like literally as stacked as a regional can be, right? And like Sung won one of those, dude. Like, and in addition to that, like you talk about his metagame impact, Sung is one of the early users of a technique that every single competent melee player, not top melee player, but competent player in 2021 uses. A lot of that is attributable to Sung. And I think for having a player with, you know, if we're representing metagame impact on the list and we're trying to represent all these different eras and contributions to the game, I do think if there was one thing I would have to change, I would want Sung there, like at 100. I understand why he didn't make the list.
I love the call. And I want to wholeheartedly agree.
You know, that's a kind of a fun little thought experiment. Is like, who would you know? So we got to see the 100. And obviously, not every player can make the 100. So I think Sung's a fun example of someone who doesn't make it. But let's talk like honorable mentions, because we didn't really get into people who didn't make it. We didn't really publicize a lot of the people after 100. I think we said 101. We revealed 101, like not officially. 101 was Caveman, right?
Oh,
so
that guy's really close to making it for sure.
We were able to talk about that, but yeah, I mean, like, do you guys have any particulars who you didn't see make it, who you think deserve either to make it or deserve a shout out right here?
Because my chat is really they're really plugging Larry Lurr. They think Larry Lurr.
Yeah, I've been seeing that from some people.
Apparently Diskin was Diskin not on there, but we already talked about ICs. I don't want to bring it up.
Yeah. So the thing I'll say about Larry is I mentioned before that I had nominees that I was considering, like that I basically cut Larry out of in favor for.
He wasn't even a nominee.
Yeah, he like barely missed the cut. He was
Larry.
like one. Yeah, like it was really close between him and, because the thing is, it's like, so Larry's thing is that like he was like when he was around, like he didn't go to that much, but when he was around, like he'd go to events and do pretty well. Like he was power ranked in SoCal and everything. And the thing is, he didn't
travel much, I will say.
Yeah, so it's like,
I was active during that area, and even as someone who was active in that era, Larry really didn't go to much.
Yes, so like that was one of the things, but like he was around for a while, but we had people on the list who already kind of like represented that contribution, if that makes sense.
I would rather over someone like Larry, someone that I think, if I'm not mistaken, didn't make the list, I would rather see somebody like Falcomist on there.
Falcomist was another like one. So I talked about like the players. I wonder if they made it on the nominee, whether they would have challenged like 96 to.
What about Lucian?
Lucian was also out of the nominees list, but like I considered him. Like I do wonder, like people like Larry, DOH, Daryl, Esam, like even Esam to an extent. Like
wow, Daryl wasn't on there.
Yeah, Daryl barely missed the cut.
You keep bringing up Esam. There must be some results I'm missing, because I don't even think that was
Esam beat Javi.
We're talking about good. Larry, Suggs, like people were talking.
Esam was really good. But like the reason I bring those up is because like there were other old school players that I had in the nominee process. Like I had I guess I had Pink Shinobi in there. Like I had KM.
Pink
like
Shinobi.
Jono.
Bum.
Yeah, I will say I am surprised. I am surprised to see like somebody like Swift Base as high as he is, and not see Pink Shinobi or Falcomist.
Part of me wonders like if those players made them, like would they have challenged like some of the like 94 to 100 people? Like maybe, but one of the things that I found in the list is that like like even looking at 96 to 100, like it's really stacked. Like there's a lot of really, really good players. Like I don't know if I could confidently be like, oh, like Larry Lurr was robbed, like he should be over Ty. You know what I mean? When you're getting to that level, it's so tough.
I'm actually more towards, I think there should be like Magi wasn't on there, right? Spark.
Yeah, I Magi didn't have
Sparks on there. Sparks was on there.
Spark was on there, but Magi didn't have as many years.
What about Siren?
Siren was like in the 140s or so.
140s, like, really? Didn't he get like 9th at a pound? Like,
Taj.
Yeah. So like the thing is, you have to think like there are so many players like that, right? So it's like when we were cutting it down to like a list of 120, we're trying to represent like different unique contributions, right? Yeah. So it's like I had to include a couple old school players. I had to include people from the post brawl era, a couple modern people. Like I mentioned DOH as someone who I think barely missed the cut. So I do kind of wonder like if the panel would have voted.
I don't think DOH barely missed the cut.
I don't. Oh, you don't think he's in the conversation?
I think a guy like Red, for example, would.
So Red was at. I feel fine like revealing. Red was 109. He was like right on.
Okay,
he was on the outside.
So like that, I put Red above. I think DOH is probably 120ish, so I don't think maybe it's not that great. But I don't think he's like the 101, like the real that we're talking about here.
That's why I don't feel too bad about some of the nominees.
Based on everyone we said, we might be right. Sung might actually be the guy that I'm like. That might be the person that was the most snubbed, because he did have a really good period. I mean, winning an SS is better than like anything the people in this ranking, like this tier, any of them did. That's more impressive than any of the other ones did.
All right, so I'll tell you guys something then. Since this is a show, I don't really care if this leaks, but like there's 70 people in the viewers. I don't mind revealing this. Why don't I tell you guys the 101 to 110? Sound good?
Okay. All right.
So
Let's hear it.
101 was Caveman, as we said. 102 was Santiago. 103 was Slocks.
Santi's not on the list.
103 was Slocks. 104 was CDK. 105 was Tink. Well, it's worth noting one person declined to vote on CDK. 105 was Tink. 106 was Captain Smuckers, who I have to admit I was the only person that ranked Captain Smuckers in the top 100.
I don't think Smuckers is that close.
Smuckers does have gang. That's really what it comes down to.
That's it. It's not. Yeah.
It was over Zayn and Crush. What an insane. Anyways, I'm sorry.
If gang were the only tournament to happen, if it were like 2007, 2008 or whatever, and that was the only tournament to happen, yeah, sure. He's top 100.
Sung was 107. Android was 108. Red was 109. And most interestingly, Laudandus was 110.
Oh, Laudandus could have made it. Absolutely. Wow, yeah. Lottie Dottie. I mean,
I had Laudandus pretty
pound
close.
Is better than, again, anything in this tier anyone's ever,
Yeah.
I'd say
he had some wins.
Laudandus fifth are like the two best of this tier by a large margin. In terms of things they did in terms of peaks.
I mean, Santi,
you're sleeping on the Smuckers. I think Smuckers beating Zayn and Crush was insane, but
that is an insane peak.
I mean,
as well.
yeah, you're right. It's just Smuckers. I think the rest is actually just really isn't so good.
I mean, Smuckers was able to have some pretty insane wins every now and then, but yeah, not consistent to that level. I had Laudandus at like 101. I think Slocks could have made it. I think Santi's really good.
Santi.
I'm gonna take this, take the assignment. I'm gonna be a little weirdo about it, and I'm gonna say a player who would not have made it by the time that voting ended. But I'm going to fix the rules to a way where I sound really smart. I'm gonna say Kadoran. I think if we make this list a year from now, Kadoran makes it.
Well, of course.
Honestly, Kadoran from just main stage might be enough.
Yeah, I'll say
after
Kadoran, and then Kadoran, is he 100 if we count everything up to main stage?
He's probably higher.
What about Sung? What about Sung?
Wait, how did he do at Summit?
He got 9.
He got a win, but I think he ended up getting 13th there. He got
people in pools or whatever.
I think he needs main stage to get in, and with that, he actually does make it in. He got top 8 at Riptide. He got top 8 at Smash World Tour. He got top 8 at Low Tide. He was 7th at Riptide. Really maybe I'm wrong. What you just said back to back.
I think he's probably just in there.
Kadoran's probably beaten Absent Page's resume, right? If we're using that as
he has.
Probably.
Remember the words you just said back to back? I'm like, that's good.
Yeah, Absent Pages are 100, and Kadoran seems like he's definitely past that.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. Edwin, we got to redo it. Re-release.
People are talking about Polish, because Polish winning, getting second at SWT East, straight up,
and winning SmashCon.
And SmashCon.
You guys think Polish kicks out Mike G and takes the peach spot from the 90s?
No, I wouldn't be confident without looking at Mike G's resume, but Polish is on his way there.
Mike G should go up.
That's insane. Yeah.
All I remember about Mike G is I remember on Smashboards a while back when the mid days of Smashboards. I remember Shroom had no idea who Mike G was. Dewan was not impressed. He's like, "Who the fuck is Mike G?" This was like 2011. Yeah, I know. I was shocked. Shocked. He didn't know who Mike G was.
I think now would be a pretty good time to go over some of the questions that we have for Toph and Blur.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Every week for our guests, we usually ask for questions from the Patreon. So we have 2 guests here, so we actually got a bunch of questions. Now, usually what happens each week is that the kind of running bit is that I talk about how bad the questions are, and then the next week the questions end up being good. I will say, in terms of quality, these questions are very good. They're also a little mean. So we're going to try to find some that...
Whoa!
Ask me the meanest one.
How mean are we talking here?
Who are they mean to? Is the question.
Edwin, do you have any lined up that you would like to ask?
Why are they mean?
Are they mean to the people being ranked, or are they mean to us?
Yeah, are they mean to me? Well, my feelings now.
Yeah, that's the real question.
Blair, do you remember playing a link named Save State?
I don't.
In friendlies.
I do not.
Okay, apparently what happened is that you went around saying that you beat Save State in
I
like every
did?
friendly.
That
And
sounds
then
like something I would do.
and also sounds like something you would do. Apparently, Save State won like every single friendly that you guys played.
First of all, I want to let you know, Save State.
That sounds like we need to set up a good old fashioned money match.
Okay,
Is
number
what it
one,
sounds like to
I
me.
don't remember any of this. Number two, I think I make it very clear and transparent with my public persona that I would lie about something like this to everyone's face.
I don't know if
I don't know.
And so
I
I feel like
I
you
don't know
have
how
to
you're getting away
understand,
with
Save
this
State.
Okay,
that
here's
it
here.
is
Let me
something.
okay.
that
Let me
It's
ask
just a
an
part
actual.
of it, bro.
All right,
Yeah.
here's a fun question. Who would win in a head-to-head of Melee Jeopardy between you two,
Me.
Toph and Blur?
I win every single Melee Jeopardy.
Dude, I would
I
normally
even tried to
say-
lose one
you do
time,
pretty
and I
well.
still won.
I would like to say me, but the truth is, I watched some of those VODs. Toph is a monster, bro. Like sometimes I was just like,
Damn.
All right, Blur
damn,
would
you
win.
got
Blur
that
would win.
shit.
Blur would win.
Oh God, okay.
I think
Toph-
I've gotten lucky.
Toph knows I'm only humble by the things I'm good at, which is if I'm being humble right now, that probably means I would win. So that's just like
All right, then I would win.
Wait a second. Maybe I would lose.
Okay, well let's. Here's another
It'll be
one.
close. But Toph's a monster. Toph's a monster.
Here's another
So
one
don't know.
I have for you, Blur, from Melee Stats member Ambi Sinister. Do you think you win the run back versus Serial Rabbit right now?
He did. Oh, right now.
I did win. And
No, like right now.
I don't think Serial Rabbit plays anymore, so probably. First of all, I don't like the word run back there because me and
Okay,
Armada were literally drinking together. We were literally shot for shot drinking together, and somehow his loss doesn't count, and no one talks about it. But my loss counts, even though we were literally the same
Your
amount of
loss.
drugs.
Listen, Blur. This is a good point. I can explain it to you though. Are you curious
Bro,
about
I
this? Do you
was
want me to explain to you
exactly
why?
as drunk as Adam. We were
That's
fucking
fine. That's
wasted.
totally fair. But do you want? Are you curious as to why people talk about it the way they talk about it?
I know why they do, and I think it's unfair.
Why do you think they do?
Because I lost to another Kirby.
Because you
And
lost to
another
another
time.
Kirby, and the other guy is Armada.
Okay, I get that. All right.
So
But I
one
just
of those
want-
people,
I
Kirby,
just
is like,
feel-
okay, there's a precedent. The other one's
Look,
Armada.
I can take the Moon Knight loss to the chest. I don't think the Sierra Out one's fair, and I think it's just not consistent and not fair. We all said Foundry doesn't count except for one human being, and so I can't drink, but everyone else can. This is bullshit.
All right, this is a good one to give you, Blur. Which SoCal players do you think never got their due credit?
Oh wow, a lot. I'm gonna name right now.
Oh.
You can't answer Sung, by the way. That
I can't
doesn't-
answer Song because we already did it, but also I think Ruffle, the Luigi. He was
definitely.
like, he actually had a shit ton of wins. Like you actually look at it, you're like, dude, Ruffle, okay, his overall placement sometimes wouldn't really show, but if you actually go in those brackets, like he'd be beating top players left and right. And I know it may not sound as impressive, but him being in like the 10 to 15 range in SoCal at that time is insane. It's still insane because at that time, being 10 to 15 range in SoCal means you're top 40 in the world. Like that's how insane, how stacked SoCal was relative to the field at the time. So I think most people don't talk about Ruffle. Most people don't even mention him as one of the greatest Luigi's to ever play. But you actually look at the results and look at the career, and the dude was really good.
Toph, here's one for you.
Okay.
What's the funniest Blur story that you have?
Why is this for me? The funniest Blur story that I have. I mean, a lot of these have been told on the Scar and Toph show, of course. The Boba store stories.
That's a good
I'm a
story.
big fan of the Hyunis one.
The who?
The painting.
Oh yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's a banger.
We still have that emote. Oh my god. I mean, funniest Blur story. Christ. I mean, it would be one of those. I've told all my good Blur stories. But yeah, if people haven't seen the YouTube video, I mean, I did run into Blur on Unranked, and I predicted the exact moment that he switched to Red Marth by switching to Red Marth, and then I beat him in a 1st to 5, which I'm very proud of. Okay, I have a lot of respect for Blur. And I've been asking Blur. Blur's been dodging me for months. He was dodging me. I've been asking for this Marth first to 5. And what did I do after I played the first to 5? I had the good grace because you said if we ever do a Marth first to 5, I want a first to 5 with your Fox. So what did I do? I played with Fox too.
I respected that, but I didn't know who you were, so I didn't.
But
know
it's
that
funny.
Was your Fox.
It's funny that the character of mine that does the best against you apparently is Captain Falcon, which I think makes sense.
Wait, what? I won the Falcon game.
You lost all of the Falcon games.
No, I won all the Falcon games.
Lost all the Falcon.
All right, we're seeing the.
I can see why.
Against my Marth.
Your Marth also lost the Falcon game. It's on YouTube. I can pull it up. Do you want to? I'll link you.
I think you're wrong.
Don't make me link you. Blur, don't make me link you. It's on YouTube. I can link.
I don't want it to be linked, but I'm
just gonna link you. I'll just link you. I'll just type it.
like.
All right. Well, I won the Falcon game. I won all the Falcon games. I won several of the Falcon games.
This is
I feel like I won.
It's a pretty funniest story. So the last question we're going to ask you, I feel like it kind of feels in line with all this. This is from Chroma.
Good.
In the spirit of the Michigan and Grime PR, what is the grimiest thing that you've done that you're willing to admit to?
Ooh.
Wow. This is for Blur?
This is for everyone. I know Blur had, for you two, I guess.
God, the list is so long. What do I
do like that you assume it's for Blur.
I have a funny story. I have a good story. I'll start. Blur, while you're thinking, I'll start. This is less than I did it, but I was definitely a part of it. And I do think it's a funny story. So, at majors, it's always a struggle to get a friendly setup at majors to actually play friendlies. And it was like Apex 2014, I think. Me and Hacks really wanted to warm up for tournament, and we wanted to play friendlies. And we like, all the setups are completely full or whatever. So Hax was like, don't worry, I got this. And he goes up to the setup and he's like, hey, can we get this for tournament? And the guys are like, oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can get this for tournament. They start getting up. And then he even, to add, to really like seal the deal, as they're getting up, because they're like a little bit maybe confused. Has bracket even actually started? What's going on here? He turns to me and very audibly, he's like, dude, do you just want to start Battlefield or do you want to strike? And I'm like, oh, we should strike. And we start playing rock, paper, scissors and shit until both of these guys are clearly out of earshot. And then we just like sit down and fucking play friendlies. But we're doing the whole thing. We're like, oh, rock, paper, scissors. Like, okay, I strike FD, and they're like walking away. And I was just playing along the whole time, but no, it was just friendlies.
Okay. Well, geez. I guess, this is a minor one, but I look back and I'm like, why'd I do that? So Larry, since we're talking about Larry, he had the tag DEHF def, right? For years. And at very early on, he was like, oh, let's use Larry Lurr. It's a better tag. It is a better tag. Larry Lurr is a better tag than does everyone hate Falco. And I looked at him dead in the eyes and I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. I don't really know why I did that. I think it was a power trip moment, a little Blur power trip moment. I was like, I don't want to do that. And so
you don't want to do what?
Change his tag. I kept him as DEHF for really no reason. He entered tournaments as he because I was his TO for pretty much most of the time. He was forced as def. Like he literally could not change. He was like, Blur, please. I was like, nah.
Oh my God.
I'm just gonna keep it down.
Low-key kind of messed up.
It's kind of messed up. Why'd I do that? I don't even know. Why did young Blur do that? That makes no sense. Like, why not just change it? Who gives a shit? But I was just like, no, I'd like def better. And he was just like, but Blur. And I was like, no, I'm just going to keep it. And then I did that. And
it's actually like so
you were
awesome.
drunk with power. You were drunk. You were actually drunk. You were drunk with power.
You had too much power, dude.
I think the thing about that is the needlessness of it too.
It's so needless.
I think that's what I did.
It's so senseless.
Me and Larry are good friends. And it was just more like, it was a petty thing of just like,
yeah.
What if I don't, bro? Like, what if I don't? What are you gonna do about it? You don't enter anyone else's tournament. You don't go to majors to fucking make it confusing for people. I'm your commentator, so I'm gonna go up there. Even if you tell the commentators, like, hey, I want to be called Larry Lurr, I'm the commentator, so I'm gonna take
drunk off power.
You know what's funny is that actually like really, they're brawl and ultimate players at this point who are actually like they don't know about the legacy of def, and you could have prevented all this. This confusion.
Yeah. There was even a small period where he was entering like a Smash 4 tournament as Larry Lurr, and he was still def in Melee.
Yeah, he was definitely melee.
And if you actually look at the VODs at the
people
same
just
time,
thought those were two different people.
Like different, not the same person.
It actually probably made him look worse in the grand scheme of things to a lot of people.
So I want to make a contribution to this. And the worst thing about this is that it happened at my first ever tournament. And it happened after it happened at UConn, where I got into Smash and where I went to college. And I had just been practicing a lot with like some of the other people on campus for this tournament at the time, which was called Rumble in the Jungle. And my first opponent of this tournament was a 11-year-old, like 10 or 11-year-old. I don't know, like from the range of like 8 to 11. It's the same shit, right? It was a small lad dressed up as Link, going to this like adjacent college
Link.
Con. Just Link. Like Link, or young Link.
Well, they were dressed up as young Link because young Link is 10.
But but he was young, so he was
and his
Link.
Like dad was with him and everything, and he
was
asked his
dad as adult Link.
No, the dad was dressed up like a working Gandalf man, like a businessman, right? He's like, "Sure, son."
Was he a businessman, or was he dressed up as a businessman?
Hard to say.
It was like, was it very
like
clear?
No, I think he was just dressed up like normally. But anyway, so his son sits at the setup. I have to play him. At the time, I still mained Marth, but I saw that the son was, he had like the green tunic and everything. He had the hood. Very clearly a Link fan. At the time, I was a beginner. I was playing Marth, but I knew that Sheik did really well against Link. I knew that. So I waited for him to select his character. Like, we didn't character strike or stage strike or anything like that. I picked Sheik, and I just auto picked FD, and I chain grabbed him. I chain grabbed
FD.
Yeah, I chain grabbed him for 4.
A young child.
Yeah, I chain grabbed him for 4 stocks. He laughed in the first 2 stocks, and he's like, "What do I do?" And I just didn't say anything back, and I chain grabbed him. And
you're a sociopath.
I smiled, but inside I felt like I was dying. I was like, "Is this competitive?"
Oh, really?
There was these sorts of stories. It was my first tournament. You probably ran this tournament, Blur. You probably ran this tournament. There was a Super Smash Sundays where a girl showed up, and it was her first tournament, and she played Pichu, and Taffigan said to play her in pools. And Taffigan's ruthlessly chain grabbed this girl's Pichu.
Taffa was always ruthless.
He double 4-stock her with chain grabs. Oh, absolutely. And she never should
ever be one of those who would
she did not come back. Yeah, she did not come back. She did not have.
We lost a player that day.
We just lost Edwin.
Yeah, we just lost
OBS Ninja.
Edwin realized the weight of what he said.
Taffigan's ruthlessly chain grabbed this. We're talking all this stuff about, we should run Smash Sisters crew battles and be more inviting to girls in the scene, and all this stuff. And then
I felt so bad for it. It was like, it was so awful because it was in front of his dad.
What are you doing? In front of his dad?
Yeah, his dad was just like watching, like not reacting at all.
I support beating the shit out of small children in video games, by the way. I fully support this because I used to beat the shit out of Elliot in Super Smash Brothers Melee at the tournaments I would go to in the Pacific Northwest. Now he shows up on my stream and beats me. So clearly I didn't beat him hard enough, which it's very upsetting.
Is it weird that
enough that he quit?
Is it weird that if their parent is watching, it makes me want to pull punches? But if it's their significant other,
because
if it's their significant other, I somehow
then you want to beat them. No, this is actually very widely discussed. No, this is a thing in Japan. They used to talk about this. There was a term, I forget what the term was, but there's a term for people. It was guys that bring their girlfriend to the arcade. There's this kind of unwritten rule that if you playing someone in an arcade and they brought their girlfriend to the arcade, you got to beat them as hard as possible. Because it's like, dude, we have nothing. We have nothing, right? We have nothing, and who the fuck are you? You're doing this to us. You have to. It was a Kazunoko. It's a Kazunoko quote. Kazunoko was talking about fucking somebody. He had to play someone in fucking Capcom Cup Finals. Someone who's married, and he's like, I knew I had to win because gaming is all I have. I have nothing. And you're gonna try to take this from me too?
Yeah, you can't win in both ways. You can't win in both ways.
It's one of my favorite gamer quotes of all time. Kazunoko, I fucking forget who it was. It wasn't Daigo. It was someone like that, Nemo or someone. And he's talking about how he had to play them in finals, and he amped himself up by thinking like, dude, I can't let the normies win. I have to hold it down for the fucking losers.
Because
and I just thought it was so inspiring.
I've only brought a significant other to like 2 tournaments ever. I generally think it's not a great idea with the way the Smash scene is. But I will say, it does boost you a bit, right? Even if they don't care, just you doing well is just like, oh, I didn't know you were good, or like something like that. It does give you that, right? And you don't want to give them that. You don't want them to have that happiness. You want that happiness. And so it's just, you got to beat them. You got to beat them.
Is there not happiness to go around, Blur? Do you have to? Is there like a finite amount of happiness?
Yes, actually, that's the worst part.
Is it a zero-sum game?
In competition, a little bit.
True.
Someone
Okay.
loses, someone wins.
You're right. Yeah.
Someone loses, someone wins, and it better be me that wins.
And you know what? I want to talk.
Is it Blur?
I want to talk. We're going to talk about happiness in terms of, luckily we are multifaceted human beings. We have stuff that can bring us happiness outside of Melee. So every week on this podcast, we have a segment that is unnamed because Edwin doesn't like the name Touching Grass, despite the fact that everyone, fans love it. So a segment that is not called Touching Grass. It's basically like, we only talk about Melee. But we are humans that are interested in stuff more than Melee. So we're going to go around and talk about something that's been kind of big in our lives recently, or something that we've been interested in, something that's just not in the Melee sphere. So I'm going to go first. 2 weeks ago, I said Succession. I've been watching Succession. Now, truly, that I've been watching so much of it this week that should be my answer. But since I just used it, I'm probably going to have to...
What is that?
Succession. It's an HBO show.
Mm-hmm.
It's a show about like some of the richest people in the world, and it's one of those things where like, oh yeah, great, time to watch that. But it's actually very, very good. I would recommend it. I think that the writing of the characters is amazing. The way that the characters all play off each other is very, very good. But I just used that like 2 weeks ago, so I'm instead going to say Wawa. The chain that is in the Northeast and now Florida, I believe.
And Southeast. What do you mean? And now it's been in Florida forever.
It's been in Florida for like 8 years.
Where do you live? I want a little clarification.
Philadelphia.
Okay. If you lived in Florida, I would be like, Florida man says he's near Thanksgiving. He says he's grateful for Wawa, and that really would just really make a lot of sense.
So I'm gonna have a great Thanksgiving dinner.
Great. Wawa's really good.
But it's
better than 7-Eleven.
I did have a gobbler bowl.
Yes,
this
it's better
week.
than 7-Eleven. Not better. It is better than
7-Eleven, dude. So I spent a week in California, and it was great.
Yeah.
It was very fun. But every Uber I was in, they keep talking to, like, they're asking me where I'm from. I say Philadelphia, and they say, how is it? I'm like, it's good. I like Philadelphia, and I end up mentioning Wawa each time, and I didn't even realize it. And I just like kept talking about it. I was like, it's 7-Eleven, but guess what? It's good. Go in at 2 a.m. and you can get a really like.
They make you real food.
Yeah, you can.
Wawa, and I guess Sheetz too. I've never been to Sheetz. I've heard good things. Wawa
Sheetz is pretty good.
The closest thing the U.S. has to like Japanese convenience stores.
You go in at 3 a.m.
You can get a real,
and then they just make you a meatball sandwich. It's like, it's great. And what they have an app, and on their rewards app, for some reason, every Tuesday you can get a free iced coffee. So. Wow. I didn't do it this week, but usually if I need a little pep before I do one of these episodes, I'll just go and get a free any size iced coffee.
Yeah, Wawa's awesome.
Pick up, Toph, you love tasty cakes. Sometimes I'll get a tasty cake.
Love tasty cakes. I love tasty cakes. They're good.
So I feel very typical Philadelphian when I say that.
It sounded earlier like I was clowning on you, but the truth is, I'm right there with you.
Wawa's amazing.
And dude,
Wawa's amazing.
Sometimes I'm just like,
really hard to hit on Wawa.
You really feel American in these moments. We're just like, look, we clown on the fast food, the junk food, and the this sort of stuff. But truth is, life would be worse without them.
Oh, you don't have to go to.
What do you think about In-N-Out?
Pick up anything. It's also a convenience store.
What do you think about In-N-Out? Speaking of faster food.
So. That's the thing, right? I went to California for a week, and everyone asked about In-N-Out, and everyone when you're there asks about In-N-Out. I was talking to Walt about this.
Yeah.
Turn down for
Walt.
He's
dragging this out. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that they are similar, right? If you had to
turn down for Walt and In-N-Out?
Yeah, they're both, I hate them both. No. Wawa and In-N-Out I think are similar in the fact that if you had someone who came to Philly and they heard all about how Wawa is great and they go to get it once, I don't think they understand. I think In-N-Out's really good, but I've heard people who are disappointed by it first time around And it's like, well, you're kind of expecting it to be the best thing you've ever eaten, but which it's very good, but it's not. What it is it's convenient. They're open like
It's
late.
there for you.
There's
It's
a
there
ton
for
of
you.
them.
Yeah.
It's cheap. It's
Yeah.
like it's a good value. They like what it is it's something that you could always go to. It's there for you. Yeah. And so I think In-N-Out or Wawa are very similar in that sense. Both like if you only had to eat it once, it's not better than, like a steak or something. But as something that you can get at any point and not break the bank, I think that's really great.
Okay. Glad you have a reasonable take on that one.
You asked me a question. You said I was drawing it out. So
no, I was just worried. No, I was just nervous.
Thought.
I was nervous that you were going to say some stuff that I was going to have to disagree with.
I did bring up Turn Down for Walt. Was that when you got a little worried?
No. I just was worried that that's my take entirely. People compare it to fucking Five Guys, which is like not a fair. Five Guys is a restaurant
double the
burger.
price. Shake Shack also
probably
double the price.
Probably more. Yeah, Shake Shack's amazing, but it's like
they're both good, but not comparable.
Five Guys is a restaurant burger. In-N-Out's a fast food burger, and it's open till 2, and it's hot, and the customer service is really good. Yes. And I've got some technology that makes it better. Here's what I do. Here's a pro tip to everybody out there. Get the cheese fries. Because everyone loves, here's the thing about In-N-Out fries. They're pretty good when you first get them, but they immediately deteriorate. They get, you bring them with you, whatever, and they get after 15 minutes, they're just not the same. What you do is you get cheese fries. The layer of cheese over the fries locks in that steamy goodness, and then you take it home, and that layer of cheese what has it done? It's protected your fries from the outside world, and then you're going to be able to dig in, and it's actually going to be pretty good. That's something that I think not a lot of people are on. I think it's very, very, and also the cheese is just delicious. You can go for animal style if you want, but I think cheese fries bare minimum is the real tech. Anyway, all right, Blur, your turn.
Okay.
What have you been up to lately? You been Slaying the Spire?
No, I haven't been. I'm purposely trying not to play that game because it's too good. I like it too much. And I did that for like a year. I streamed for a bit. Had a lot of fun with it. Now, Toph, you've almost been streaming full time for almost the same amount of time, I want to say. So I actually never talked to you about like how that's been going and all that. I'd love to have a more one-to-one on what that is. But and then like this last year, I've just kind of been playing a shit ton of video games and traveling a lot. I would say that's mostly what I've been doing.
Where'd you travel to, Blur?
A lot of places. The most recent one is I went to Mexico City and the surrounding areas. I mean, I've been to Mexico a lot, but just to see, I'd say a lot of like the ruins and the history on that stuff. I hadn't done that. Like, like Teotihuacan is the name of the ruin. And I did a lot of stuff I didn't know. I didn't know like the meaning of the Mexican flag, like the eagle that's like above a cactus, like an old Aztec symbol. In general, I've learned with traveling, nothing beats ruins. Nothing, literally ruins are my shit. Like I like everything, but nothing is cooler than ruins. Some ruins, which none of you guys can go to. I went to Persepolis. That's still the best ruin I've ever been to in my life. That's in Iran. And I'd say a few others. Like a lot of the Mayan ones are dope, but I would say that one was actually up there in terms of one of the best I've ever seen. It's like the 6th largest city in the world at one point. It's pretty cool. Right outside.
I didn't have you as a ruins guy, Blur.
Dude, I like it.
Ruins. I'm grateful for ruins, bro. Because I feel like you go there and you can literally feel. And I still want to go to Pompeii because that's the one that's preserved the most.
And if you close your eyes, ayo, does it almost feel like
bro?
You can change it all.
You can literally feel that, right? Like you feel you feel like you're in a different civilization and time. And I'm a big guy. Me and Mike Ross used to say this every single day. We looked at each other and say the same thing. We said if VR ever becomes like legit, like it gets to the level that we really want to see, we're never fucking leaving our house. Because I'm a big guy that's just sick and tired of this reality. Like one of the reasons I like video games, they transport me to new worlds. Like books do the same, and a lot of these things.
So what does this have to do with ruins?
I feel like ruins are like almost they're far enough away that they're almost like stepping into another reality. Like
it transports you to the past,
another universe.
Yeah, because you're like, dude, people used to live like this, bro. You know, they didn't have credit scores, they didn't have Social Security, they didn't know what that shit is, and they just had like was their life, and seeing that and like walking through it and like kind of really putting yourself there is badass. And I also like stuff like VR and many other things, which like basically I'm just like, let's just think of a new universe I can live in and be in. Because to me, that's like way better than like I want to live all realities. I don't just want to live this one little stinky one, right?
Yeah.
I want to live all realities, and that's kind of like what I like. And one of the things I like the most is going to ruins, because I feel like lets me try something, like be a part of a whole different universe.
You know what?
If anyone's got ruins recommendations,
that's such
if
a
anyone
good
has
answer.
recommendations
I think
for
that's
ruins,
a beautiful answer.
I'm there.
That's
I'm
a
there,
beautiful
dude.
answer.
Get me into some ruins.
Really
bro.
like it.
If this were like, if your life were a novel that you read in high school, like I would have to write a short answer about why, like, what does you liking ruins represent? It'd be like, what's the theme of Blur liking ruins? I'd have to write a short answer on that.
Yeah, dude. I think in general, it's like it's kind of like, this is the more negative way, but the derealization, where it's like you look around, if everything feels fake. I feel like I kind of feel that way with a lot of like regular world stuff. And so I have like my mom's different than this, or I don't feel like the real world and the imaginary worlds in both in my head and in fiction, and when ruins or whatever are really all that different. I kind of feel it's arbitrary, the one I live in. And so I'm able to comfortably squeeze in and get into a new universe and like really have fun with it. And there's not too many ways of doing it. That's why I love all world building fiction. I think world building fiction is like the shit. It's like, it doesn't really matter what the world is. I love Star Trek. I love Lord of the Rings. Like, it's basically like, if you're making a world for me, get me in there.
Toph, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? I'm always up to a lot. Unfortunately, a lot of it does have to do with Melee. I have to pick something that's not Melee.
Yeah.
I feel like you got a lot going on.
I do. I'm gonna pick something okay. Something that I'm doing. I mean, I think a lot of people know I'm really into chess. I'm gonna tie this all together. I'm really into chess. And so from January 2nd to 9th, I think some of my stream chatters know about this. Me and my girlfriend are going to Tulum, Mexico for a week. But also part of the reason we're going is because the chess bras are doing a chess camp in the daytime, and then at night they're doing they're just fucking. I think we're just partying. And so Tulum is apparently like a resort town, and so we're both going. I'm going to be attending this chess camp that they're doing. I'm going to learn a lot about chess.
That's really
and then
cool.
at night we're going to fucking rage like crazy. And I think there's techno concerts and stuff like that. And I think people. Maybe they've got ruins. I don't know. It's a resort town. I feel like if you're going to build a resort town, you build one near some ruins, right? She's in chat. She said, I think there are ruins near Tulum. Maybe we can go to a ruin. I don't know. I'm gonna be, yeah. So that's what I'm doing. Try to get to the next level at chess. Chess is a game, I've been thinking a lot about, like, with like, we're always wondering with Melee, right? It's like, what if Nintendo comes in and shuts it all down? This recent news this week, obviously there's a ton of news in Melee right now, right? So we don't know. Maybe this is a concern of the past. Maybe it's not. But one thing that I always thought was cool about chess is that no one can come in and shut it all down ever, right? True. I think that's something that I thought about. I was like, man, if Nintendo comes in, maybe I just have to go all in chess, Just I gotta pick some game that they can never take away from me. So
yeah.
That's super cool. Yeah. It sounds like you have a magical week ahead of you at some point.
Maybe with ruins in it. Maybe with ruins.
So if we play
that's going to be January 2 through 9th, by the way, chat. If you're expecting me to stream that week, I'm not going to stream. In Mexico.
So if we play 2 chess games in our entire lives together, and they were good games. So I like your
dude, we should play again. I think I would smoke you.
Aren't we like around the same? I don't know. Maybe I would smoke you, bro.
Ooh, have you been playing?
All right. Well, Toph, you mentioned going on vacation with your girlfriend.
And I mentioned ruins.
Yeah, and you mentioned ruins. I don't quite have the ruins part down, but I just went on my honeymoon with my spouse, which is really
How long have you been married? I thought you've been married for quite some time. How long have you been married?
2 years. We got married right before the pandemic. So
and you just didn't have an opportunity to go on a honeymoon. Oh, where'd you go?
So we went to Jamaica, and for the most part,
ruins in Jamaica.
I mean, maybe, but not where we were. So we stayed on a resort. It was pretty nice. We just hung out at the beach all day. Like had a bunch of rum. It was fun.
That sounds great.
Ate good food. Definitely one of the highlights of the trip was going to actually like on a bit of an excursion to this other place like up in the mountains. Like we basically took this like taxi drive through this massive like field of sugar canes where the roads were like incredibly tiny, and it felt like we were in the middle of nowhere. But at the end of our trip, we were just at this like big mountaintop with this like house on top of this like incredible like this terrain of like trees and birds and like cats and dogs or whatever. And there's just like and we had like yeah, both actually. I wasn't being hyperbolic. There were just like a ton of animals. We were in this like mountaintop. It felt like we were away from everything else, but there's this really nice place that we were having dinner in, like with this view of like the forest beneath us and like the entirety of like the terrain up top, and you're having this like incredible like 5-course meal. It was really awesome. But I think something about the trip, if I can just get like a little personal for a moment, is that I think I needed to take some time away from just like throwing a ton of stuff and like throwing a ton of my effort into Melee, because I think like all of us have been here at some point where it's like, if you really care about something and you care about your contribution to the scene or like the way you want to contribute, it's really natural to get to like take ownership over it. And it's really natural to see the way that like, it's really natural to think of yourself in like really important terms. Like, oh my God, like what will this person or this person do without me to do this? Or like, what will happen if I am not there? Like, what will happen if I take a step back and expect someone else to do this? And like, I think something that like, I was thinking to myself, like, you know, out on the beach, just like watching the waves crash against the shore or whatever. I was just thinking like, you know, like the community is so much more than like one individual. And it's a lot more like individuals are really great. But I think the thing that you actually have to accept if you're trying to give a lot to the scene is that like it will be okay with or without you, because like something about Melee, like the game and the community it draws, just like inspires greatness, and like inspires a lot of passion among the people that are like brought to it, and it really like brings the best out of them. So like I always try to think like I always try to think of like contributions to the scene and like the reason we do things in it, not just because we love the game, but because we want to bring the best out of the community, right? Not just ourselves either. We want to bring so much good from the community where what we do doesn't really matter that much as individuals. And I don't know. I think it's kind of like a paradox where it's like you have to put in effort for it, but like when you're putting in effort, the long-term reward is that like not only are you getting happiness, but like you're inspiring other people to like carry the torch where you left it, so that they can take it even further than like you could have ever imagined, or like that you could, or that like, or even like more romantically, you can all hold the torch or whatever together and keep going. I don't know. I thought about this a lot on my trip. Not just about Smash, but just like everything in life in general. But like Smash is obviously the thing that I put like all my professional effort into. So yeah.
See, Edwin, this is all starting to loop into itself. Because what I'm hearing is that you're motivated, in terms of Melee at least, a lot by stuff like communal growth and like making an impact and all that crap. And this is probably also why you have the other side of the coin, where you get annoyed when Twitter shitters come after you, because you're just like, I want you guys to be inspired by my work and continue to lift the torch and all that. And that's not how you're taking it. And that's why, you know.
I don't know. If
instead, they just say that Ken
you see what I'm saying?
Above Mew2King.
yeah. I mean, I sort of see it. It's a little different. It's similar to that, but a little different. It's more like if I see like a lot of good or in someone else, it's like I don't want that person to just like do what I think is right. It's like I want that person to achieve like the most that they can do, and like for the things that they are good at. Like I don't want that. Like I don't want like I'll use the panel for like the top 100, for example. Like I didn't want a panel of 6 people that would just agree with me. Every individual has like holes and like strengths and weaknesses. They can shore them up. Like people can get really competent at different things, but I just think like the community is a lot more effective when people are like bringing the best out in themselves and each other. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
I don't know.
We shouldn't have single
Sure.
points of failure.
Yeah,
We're trying to say.
yeah. I think I think like
I think
not
that's-
having influence or skills consolidated is a good thing.
For sure.
I think that's true for at least 3 of the people here, but I think the blur is irreplaceable.
And if we don't
Hmm.
if we don't heed this advice, maybe the Melee community will become ruins.
But seriously, like a lot of times people who have that mentality, I used to be like a one-trick pony where it's just community impact I cared about, and I still cared about community impact and crap. But I think one thing that has always helped me from giving too much of a shit is realizing that yeah, I care about the community, but actually what I care most about is the goddamn game. It's Melee being beautiful that really matters. If the game kind of sucked and I kind of like stopped liking it, like I just thought it was like, oh, this is kind of a garbage game. I don't know even why am I caring anymore? I like the people. That's great. But I would probably have drifted out by now. The truth is a lot of the reason why I still give a shit is because I think Melee's goated. And so it helps.
Maybe.
The game matters a lot. The game carries. That's
Yeah,
something
it
Mango
does.
always used to say.
When
The
the
game
community-
But I think the
carries.
game also brings
When
that out of people, though.
I guess
That's
what I
the
mean to
thing.
say is when the community's being annoying, you can always fall back on, yeah, well, fuck them. Melee deserves better. And then continue
I
working.
guess.
You know what I'm saying?
Or at least like Melee is a conduit for like expressing yourself or like what you think. This is something that like I have to quote like Ambi on. Like Ambi always talks about this like Toby Fox quote, right? It's like if I don't express myself, like there's no point to putting work in my art or whatever. Or I forget the exact quote. It's some shit like that. Like it's like Ambi's life motto. He like loves it. He loves this quote so much. I guess I don't love it as much as he does, but like but like the sentiment of that quote is something that like he talks about a lot that I think about sometimes too. So I do think that's part of it as well, but it's almost like a weird like balance where you have to balance like doing what you think is right for the scene, like versus like trying to bring out the best in other people to do what they think is right for the scene and like doing. I don't know. This is just like something that I thought about a lot on break.
I got a chance to talk about something along this line this past week at Main Stage, or I guess a week ago. Because someone was talking to Ashcon about how Ashcon seems like he's doing so much, and he's cooking, he's biking, he's doing all this cool stuff, and he just said to the guy, he's like, yeah, all the effort I put into Melee, I just put into other stuff, and I do think that it's very funny, but it's like really true. I talked to Envy, Nick from the Yard and formerly BTS about this, and we talked a lot about how there's like a lot of people. You in Melee, you do your 8-hour job, and then it's like, okay, now time to do another 8 hours of work for Melee, or whatever it might be. Is it making a video? Is it TOing a local? Is it et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? But I definitely do think that there's this sense that a lot of people have in Melee where it's like it goes unspoken and to just like put effort back into the community, and then you have people who take a break, and then they're like, what do people do after they get home from work? How do you spend another 8 hours after your 8-hour workday before you're supposed to go to bed again? Like, what do you do now? And I think that like it's only a thing that people ask because Melee has this like really funny way of restructuring how people think. I think Melee changes how people learn. Like people who are good at the game, I think it changes how they learn about things. And I think for community members, it changes how they see their time and see their effort. And I definitely think before I got into Melee, I didn't have the same view of like what I can be doing with my time, like how my free time can be used to better others and whatnot. But I definitely do think Melee has this really funny thing of just like you get in because you liked playing this game when you were a kid, and now suddenly your like view of work and effort is completely changed.
Yeah, man. I don't know. It's all about the people, I guess. If they're cool, if they're not, then it's all about the Melee. And if that's not cool, then fuck it all. Do something different. And
it's one or the other, right? Like
yeah, and it can keep inspiring you into a loop or whatever. I like to not be so dramatic and serious about it because I really think that look, you don't have an option until you have an option. That's one of my sister's phrases. I really like it. Like you basically choose every.
What's the phrase?
You don't have an option until you have an option, which is basically to say
you don't have an option until
you have an option. So a lot of people like think about like, oh, am I using my time correctly? Should I make this choice or that choice, etc. And the thing is that a lot of times it's like, what could you have been doing with your time? What would you have been doing with your time? And that's really all you have to look. That's basically look at your set of options that you actually have instead of the ones that you potentially could have had. And just use that as your barometer of like, are you going in the right direction? And if you're making choices that you feel are bad, then that's probably means you're going the wrong way. But if you're like worried about choices that you never got to make, then you're probably wasting your time. You know, it's only the choices that are like in front of you really matter. So for me, it's like, oh yeah, I spent 4 hours, talking to the homies about Melee. Was that a waste of my time? No, because what else would I have been doing tonight? I think I would have been playing Return of the Obra Dinn, which I just started, but that's fine. I just play that afterwards. It's not that big a deal. And then tomorrow I'll do whatever the fuck I want. Like life is fleeting. We'll be fine. You know what I'm saying?
Ruins.
That's why you got to go to the ruins. Because
It's all about the
everything is going to
ruins.
become dust, bro. That's the main thing. Is it all literally becomes dust? It's not
All
that
right,
serious.
we should probably
Yeah,
wrap.
unfortunately, this podcast is going to become dust
At
soon.
around-
If
it's true.
people want to find you guys on socials, where can they do so? Blair?
You already follow me.
Okay. Toph?
Oh my god.
Well, I just think that the one social, I don't really care about my Twitter or whatever, but everyone should please subscribe to my YouTube. It's closing down on 30K, trying to get to 30K before
Hell
too
yeah.
long. So youtube.com/TophBBQ. No underscore. One day I will go through the SEO cleanup of I will decide underscore, no underscore, and I will standardize all of my social bullshit. Right now, no underscore for YouTube. That's all you need to remember. Please subscribe to my YouTube if you're not already subscribed. New videos almost every day.
It's crazy.
Look at that.
If you also want to subscribe to a channel that is closing on 30K but does not put out new videos every day, you can subscribe to the Melee Stats channel on YouTube. We talked about our latest video. I think it's been out 3 weeks. The one about Nintendo. You know what? I think, funnily enough, some people will say that video is now outdated, but I think that video is a kind of a nice little reminder.
We got to see what happens. Right?
It's a reminder.
I agree. It's
a
still
good thing
stands.
to watch in this time to kind of understand what we're going through. But if you now with the recent announcement about the Nintendo circuit, if you kind of want to see the history of of what Nintendo's had with our game, you can do so over there, the Melee Stats on YouTube. You can also look up our second channel, the Melee Stats Archive, where we're going to have episodes of this and some other little extras and other sets and stuff like that. It's going to be over there, Melee Stats Archive. You can watch these episodes live, twitch.tv/Melee Stats. If you want to see the posts that we put up on Twitter, twitter.com/Melee Stats Pod. You can see Last Night in Melee, which reports the locals from the night before. You can see links to the posts that we have on MeleeStats.co, such as Wednesday Melee and Monday Morning Marth. And if you like everything we do here, you can support us on patreon.com/Melee Stats. Toph,
love the
Blur,
Patreon.
Edwin. I opened this episode saying it was going to be one of the greatest because we were talking about the greatest of all time, but it wasn't a lie. This was one of the greatest episodes. We hit the 3-hour mark, longest episode we've ever done. So you guys got that.
You know we would have a lot to talk about.
I know.
Yeah,
But it didn't feel like 3 hours at all. Felt very fun. So I appreciate you guys coming on.
Nice.
And I appreciate everyone for watching. Stay tuned for next week, where I don't really know what we got going on, but I'm sure it'll be a fun one. All right, I'll see you guys.
Oh boy.
Peace.
Deuces.
Peace.